We're good.
Should have locked these before. This is. Okay. We're good.
Huh. Are we?
What is going on? All right. We'll be right back. All right. Let's go back. All right. Let's see if we can figure it out. So, that. There we go. All right. Should be all set now. What?
Oh, okay. I'm delayed. All right. All right. Just test, make sure you guys can hear me.
So, let's switch over to the other screen and let's talk about the draft. So you want to
Talk about the thing that we're all here for.
Well, yes, that.
How dare we?
Okay.
Ryan said we're quiet.
We're quiet?
Yes.
I don't know what to tell. Oh, I can boost it a little bit. Quiet but there. Okay. Hopefully this is a little bit better.
Yeah, I'll move my mic closer. All right, so we are here. We are live. Obviously, we cannot show the draft as it's happening.
Why not? Why not? They
Some pie in the sky told me it's not
listen.
allowed.
Call up ESPN, NBA TV. Tell them, hey, we'll do this for free. You don't need to pay us. We'll gladly stream it.
I think
right
they want
here.
it the other way around. I think they want us to pay them.
Nah, we'll give them way too much exposure.
This is why we need you guys to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so we can go boss these companies around.
That's right. All right, so we are here. We are going to be here for the majority of the night. We are going to go through at least the first round of the NBA draft. We're going to be here for all the trades and everything that's breaking right now. For those of you who don't know, a lot of things are up in the air right now. Mainly right now, we want to look at the number 2 pick held by the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors just received news that shooting guard Klay Thompson has suffered a significant lower leg injury to his right leg. It was perceived that they were trying to package the number 2 pick to trade out of that position, possibly that and Andrew Wiggins for a player like Bradley Beal, get something back in return that they could bring in with Clay and Steph and those boys. Now it looks like they're going to possibly stay at number 2, maybe take James Wiseman and add that big man that they were looking for. But this is definitely not good news for the Golden State Warriors.
Give me one quick sec, Mike.
Sure.
All right, we should be good there. All right, that should be better. There we go. All right. So, yeah, the Golden State Warriors. I mean, at number 2, they really don't make sense here. I think this is a prime spot for a lot of teams to really jump ahead of the Hornets, who would prefer. I mean, they'd probably prefer LaMelo Ball if they had their choice between him and Anthony Edwards. But I think that there's nobody here that the Warriors can get that's truly going to help them now. So they can get a player for that number 2 pick and build that way, because there really is nobody here that's gonna truly help them.
It'll be interesting. Your mind kind of goes to, okay, well, Clay has now suffered his second significant leg injury in a row. I'm not exactly sure that.
But if you're that worried, if you're thinking like that, then you might as well try to move up to the number 1 pick, so that way you can guarantee yourself you're going to get Anthony Edwards, who's.
They don't need to move up to number 1, and Anthony Edwards isn't the guy anyway. If they were to replace Clay, I think it would be with either a Denny Avdia or a LaMelo Ball. But it seems right now that they shouldn't panic, right? This isn't a career-threatening injury. This isn't the end of his playing career. I think that they need to continue to work on their roster. They still have Andrew Wiggins, who is a serviceable 2 guard who can take his place. Added into the fact that they're bringing back Steph Curry and Draymond Green back into the fold, plus all the experience that their young guys were able to get last year, I believe that the Golden State Warriors are going to still be in a spot where they can contend not only for the playoffs, but deep into the playoffs and possibly for a championship.
I mean, we still don't know how Steph's going to come back from his injury. We don't know. I mean, when Clay comes back, we don't know how he'll be, and that's going to be a while. I mean, yeah, you still have Draymond there. I just think even if you add Wiggins to the starting lineup, I just don't. There's too many variables for me to say that they could still compete against LeBron James and Anthony Davis, or CP3 and Devin Booker. There's a lot of teams in the West right now that are getting super close, and they're matching up to the Warriors right now, and the Warriors are looking pretty similar. Like they don't stand out amongst the rest anymore.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because the last time we saw the Warriors at full strength, the league looked much different, and as we pointed out on the podcast earlier, the league tends to take different shape each and every season. And I mean, we don't even know what the league is going to look like at the start of the regular season. As of right now, everything is still up in the air. Will Gordon Hayward still be in Boston? Will James Harden still be in Houston? Will Bradley Beal be in DC? I mean, there's so many question marks, and we've already seen some crazy things happen. Sacramento Kings forward Bogdan Bogdanovic has basically thrown a monkey wrench into multiple teams' plans by telling them he did not agree to sign with the Milwaukee Bucks. Therefore, he does not agree to the sign and trade deal that the Kings and the Bucks had in place, and he will enter restricted free agency. So, if you're telling me you're going to get Steph Curry back for the Warriors, I think that's the biggest asset that you can add right now. No, even if he's not 100% fully back and he's still got to knock some rust off, I'll take that Steph Curry over at where everybody else in the league is at right now.
I mean, yeah, it's quite possible that Steph returns to form and doesn't miss a beat, but are you really going to count on a guy like Bogdanovich to match up like Clay to Clay Thompson? I don't see that happening.
Well, no, I don't see him going to Golden State. What I'm saying is that all of these other teams that you think can compete or might be able to compete, you don't know what they're going to look like. You don't know what their plan is moving forward. You don't know if they're getting ready to sell the farm, if they're getting ready to start over, because going into tonight, if you take out the last 24 hours, we would have assumed that everything was honky dory in Houston. They had Russell Westbrook and James Harden available, and now all of a sudden it seems like they're blowing up that entire spot. They've already traded away Robert Covington. Now there's going to be a lot more movement throughout the league. Take a look at a team like Oklahoma City, who has acquired a lot of players, a lot of useful players that can be rotational pieces, can be depth pieces for contending teams. They got Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre. These guys can definitely help teams. On top of the fact that they own 16 first-round picks in the next 6 years. 16.
Yeah. I mean, Houston's going to be good, and Oklahoma's going to be good. These teams,
Oklahoma's not going to be good.
they will be.
No,
with all their trade assets. Sure.
No, because all those trade assets are building for the future.
A lot of people are finally realizing that this is not a draft you want to be a part of. So if you get draft picks for the future, it's more than likely going to turn out to be a better player anyway. So,
but that's what I'm saying. Oklahoma City right now is not in a position where they are going to compete for the playoffs. Right now, their ability is to garner as many draft picks as humanly possible. Sam Presti has done an amazing job, on top of the fact that they still have a player by the name of Steven Adams who can garner a first round pick from in a trade. So I believe that Sam Presti is not done wheeling and dealing. I assume that the Oklahoma City Thunder will be able to move up in tonight's draft or garner more assets for a player like Steven Adams. Look for a team like the Boston Celtics, who own 3 first-round picks, are not looking to make any of these selections, but also need big man help to be in the mix for a player like him. Once again, as we talked about on the podcast. All right, so we are going to keep track of the entire draft right here on the screen. You're going to be able to see it live. We're going to go through each team. Let's start off with the Minnesota Timberwolves. We have a couple minutes until the draft actually goes live, but I want to discuss where the Timberwolves are at, what they should be looking for, and what they should be doing moving forward. As you previously mentioned, this draft is becoming increasingly hard to gauge as far as pre-draft grades are concerned, just from the simple fact that, I mean, 2 of these players haven't played in over a year, talking about RJ Hampton and LaMelo Ball with COVID. And then on top of that, you have a lot of these players who had a very shortened college year last year in the NCAA. And pre-draft visits were held remotely. You didn't get to see them in the in meetings or in the rookie mini camp or whatever the case is. So as we stand right now, the Minnesota Timberwolves need to kind of bolster their roster. They have about $13 million in cap space. To stay under the luxury tax, they are at 36.4 million. At this current moment, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell are their 2 biggest contracts. Everybody else is pretty much up for grabs. Jarrett Culver and Jaron Johnson, as you can see on the screen. make up some interesting money. Jaron Johnson is a player option for them, so they have no say in whether he exercises that right or not. If I were him, I would be assuming that he's going to exercise his $15.8 million player option. And if he does exactly that, they'll have to rely on this top pick to be able to produce for them because they will be strapped for cash moving forward. I believe that they should target somebody like Anthony Edwards, the shooting guard out of the University of Georgia. He is extremely, extremely talented. If you take a look at him, to me, he looks exactly like what we expected Andrew Wiggins to end up looking like, which is kind of funny that the Timberwolves are in the mix for him, seeing as though that they lost out on what Andrew Wiggins was supposed to become after their trade with the Cleveland Cavaliers. But Anthony Edwards, he's a little on the smaller side. He's 6'3", but he's very stocky. He's very strong. He can create his own shot. He can shoot from the perimeter. His shooting percentages are very high, and he can defend with the best of them. He's got a 6'9" wingspan, which is going to help in the long run for a 6'3" player. That is definitely huge. But what do you think? Do you believe that the Minnesota Timberwolves should choose Edwards or move on with somebody else?
I mean, if they're going to draft in this position, I would, if I were them, I'd trade out of it. Anthony Edwards is the only decision because the dilemma I'm having is how do you handle two on ball guards? I just I don't know how LaMelo, who is so on ball heavy because his specialty is finesse passing. He is a dazzler. He is a Harlem Globetrotter when it comes to passing the ball, but he still got to develop his shooting game. He's still got to work on his defense and working in the paint. This isn't a guy who can be off ball right now if he's going to be effective for you. And right now, if you're drafting in the top 3, you need somebody who can start for you right now. I don't think that LaMelo can do it on the Timberwolves with D'Lo there. I mean, I think that Anthony Edwards makes a lot more sense because D'Lo can control the court. He can control the floor. Anthony Edwards can play the wing. He can play anywhere you put him. I mean, he's a very versatile player. And, it just makes more sense. It fills a need. I mean, if you have D'Lo, Anthony Edwards, and Cat holding down 3 of your 5 spots, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, I would be interested to see if they would even kick the tires on a player like Deni Avdija coming out of Israel. He is probably the most polished player coming into this draft. He's a small forward at 6'9". He has the shooting range and shooting touch to shoot from all over the court. He can defend with the best of them. He needs to get a little stronger, but other than that, I believe he's got the highest floor of any of these players. You know exactly what you're going to get from Avdia, and he would be able to be their number 3. So they would have their 1, 3, and 5 already set, and they could figure out the 2 and the 4 from there.
Yeah.
All right, so we are officially at draft time. As some of you may know, the number one source for information, besides us, of course, would be Adrian Wojnarowski out of ESPN. Right now, he's saying that the Minnesota Timberwolves are remaining on the phones discussing possible trade scenarios for the number 1 overall pick. Their plan had always been to take this down to the wire, and that's exactly what we're experiencing right now. So they haven't made a decision on whether they're going to draft somebody here yet, but it is presumed that if they do, it will be guard Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, it's a great move on their part. You want to try to finesse the best deal you can, and the way you get those deals done is when time is against you, and it's against every team that wants that number 1 pick right now. So, you're still going to get the best player in the draft in Anthony Edwards if you can't get the trade done. So it's really a win-win situation here for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I'm just going to scroll through the roster here. Don't worry about anybody that has a CH next to their name. Those are just cap holds for other teams. All these players are not on the actual roster. But as you can see, this Timberwolves roster is very top heavy. It is Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, two top tier names. And then after that, like we said, Jaron Johnson, Jarrett Culver, Jake Lyman, Josh Okogie, Jacob Evans, Amari Spellman, Jared Vanderbilt. I mean, these guys are not exactly the pieces that you wanted to be building your roster around. Obviously, keeping Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell together is key here. But you need to add more scoring and more depth. And I would almost assume that they would try to work with a team that has a couple more picks and try to trade the number one for multiple picks in this year's draft. Maybe add some more depth, especially with the fact that this draft is all these players are so close together skill wise that it wouldn't matter whether you're picking fourth or 14. Essentially, you're going to get around the same skill set of player at that point in time.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Cat coming up on his contract negotiation?
He's
Like,
got 4 years, $29.4 million per year.
and
That,
when
that
did that contract start?
that is a very good question. Let me.
Because I believe that was 2 or 3 years ago.
He signed a 5-year contract with the Timberwolves, one of which being a player option. That happened in, drumroll please, 2019.
Oh, okay.
So it's the 2019-2020 season, this past season, where he signed that contract. That's his age 23 seasons. So for those of you thinking he's an aged star already, he is not. He is only 24 years of age. Um, and right now he is in the second year of that 5-year deal. And then in 2024, he will become an unrestricted free agent, which will be his age 28 season.
Yeah, I mean they've got him for a while, and I did they ever lock up D'Lo long term or
Yeah, he has about he's got 3 more years left on his contract.
yeah? So you still have time to put this team together, but I, if you can't, I don't know what's a are you if the Timberwolves are trading away the one, are you going after trade and picks? Sorry, picks and a player? Are you going after just straight players? What's the decision here? What are you looking for? What you said role players earlier.
Right.
So is that what you want? Do you want like 3 role players, 4 role players, or
So if I'm the Timberwolves, my thinking is nobody is worth the number one pick in this draft. Honestly, that's not a slight to these guys necessarily. It's more about the fact that they're so closely compacted to each other that I would much rather have more like a group of picks where I'm more likely to hit on one of them being a bigger star than the others versus having one selection, which the Minnesota Timberwolves have. They have the number 17 pick and the 33rd outside of this number 1. If I'm Minnesota, I'm saying I want as many draft picks as I absolutely can in this draft. That way I can try to sift through all the different players, try to address as many needs as possible. Because we look at here, point guard and center are obviously low, but high, and severe for your middle three. I mean, this is what the core of the NBA is built on right here. These middle 3 players. If you look at the top players in the NBA, they're small forwards, shooting guards, and power forwards. And those players that can stretch the floor, they can play defense. Having a point guard and a center is great and all. And I'm not. I don't want to knock Karl Anthony Towns or D'Angelo Russell, but they're just not it. They are not what is going to lift the Timberwolves into contention for a title.
okay? So the clock just ran out for the Timberwolves. My guess is they didn't get a trade through. I'm going to expect that we're going to get the pick in, and it's going to be Anthony Edwards. And to go back to what you're talking about, the ends are the strong suit. Think about it like an offensive line, right? You can have a great exterior, but if your interior is weak, you can easily penetrate it. So what you want to at least do is have pillars in like intervals. So like every other one is strong so that it's not going to just collapse easily. So what you need to do is have a point guard, a big forward, and a center. And you could work that in a few different ways. I mean, you can have a big point guard and a small shooting guard. You could have and a big power forward. Like you could have different sets to fit a smaller team that's trying to fit better or run faster in transition, or you could have a bigger team like Milwaukee.
Okay, so it looks like the Minnesota Timberwolves pick is in. We have Adam Silver at the podium. They are making their selection now. The first pick in the NBA 2020 NBA draft for the Minnesota Timberwolves is Anthony Edwards, shooting guard out of Georgia. This is if they kept this pick, this is exactly what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
His ability to play the entire floor. If I had to compare Anthony Edwards to any current NBA player, it would be Victor Oladipo. He's a much thicker and stockier version of Oladipo, so he plays better defense. But other than that, he has his abilities to stretch the floor, command on or off ball offense, and he can drive to the bucket, play pick and roll with Karl Anthony Towns. He's going to be a good X factor to help build this team around. On top of the fact that he played a lot of football, he's not afraid of contact, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get to bring that ball into the paint and score with some ease. But there's a lot of we thought that this was going to happen. Anthony Edwards being the number one pick just makes perfect sense here.
It does make a lot of sense. This this either can be a telling sign to what's to come for the next two picks, or we could see a lot happen here. The Warriors probably would prefer to trade out. They don't really need James Wiseman. He doesn't fit what they want to do in the here and now. They would rather trade out, get somebody that can help them. And there's a lot of teams, like you mentioned earlier, the Celtics, they're looking for a big man, Miles Turner or Steven Adams, possibly trading up to get James Wiseman. This is a spot where you have Gordon Hayward, who he has till tomorrow afternoon to do his opt-in, to sign his opt-in.
Yep.
And then you have Daniel Tice. You have apparently Marcus Smart, as much as I hate that. Kemba Walker. Like there's all these guys. Jaylen Brown. The only one that's untouchable. Plus,
you have a lot of
have
a lot of younger guys too for the Celtics in Romeo Langford, Carson Edwards. A lot of these players that have shown their ability to produce on the basketball court and in key situations. They tend to work together. They're very team friendly. These are players that a lot of teams these players did not go unnoticed for what they did in the bubble. So it'll be very interesting. But with Golden State here again, we come back to the Klay Thompson injury. He's getting paid a hell of a lot of money. To miss a second straight season is going to be extremely tough. If I'm the Warriors, I still try to trade out of this number 2 spot. I don't believe that there is a player here that is going to fit them in the way that they need to continue to build this championship caliber roster. They're not building for the future. Their championship window is still now. And the moment that they start building for the future, they might as well start selling the farm, because they're not going to be able to transition from Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green to the next set of championship windows. They're going to have to take some time to build that.
Yeah, I mean, who's most inclined to move up to the spot? Who wants James Wiseman or LaMelo Ball more? I think the Knicks could be in play here.
It's funny you say that. I was thinking exactly that.
I'm
I think the New York Knicks could offer a lot of depth pieces to the Golden State Warriors in the form of Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, maybe some of those power forwards that they had because they had about 700 of them. Uh, there was a whole hell of a lot that they had to deal with last year as the Warriors are concerned, and if they had more depth, I think they wouldn't have been in this position, and they could have been able to continue to compete. And if again, with basketball, it's a numbers game, and the more draft picks you have, the easier it is to make one of them just hit the nail on the head. And if they're taking some of these young guys like Kevin Knox or Frank Ntilikina, I would assume that New York only has two protected players on their roster. That would be R.J. Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. Other than that, the rest of their roster is up for sale. And if I'm the Golden State, I would take a look at some of those players. I take a look at that number 8 overall pick, and I say we can still get the guy that we want at number 8, whether it's Obi Toppin or Onyeka Okongwu, and we can get some depth pieces in return. On top of the fact that the New York Knicks will be looking to get a player like either James Wiseman or LaMelo Ball, most likely LaMelo Ball.
Absolutely, it's LaMelo Ball. I mean, that's the guy that I think LaMelo Ball said it a few months ago. He was like, I want to go to New York. I want to be a Knick. And this is like a match made in heaven. So I think that this is a good spot. And then does Charlotte go after? Do they want James Wiseman? Or do you
Charlotte? No. I think well, if LaMelo Ball is gone, then I think they have to think about trading out. Because
did you say who you think the Warriors will draft at 8?
No. Well, yeah, I said they would look at a player like Obi Toppin or Onyeka Okongwu.
I was actually thinking Killian Hayes. If he drops this far, I think that he would be good for them because he's a good player who can drive in right now, and he's a really good facilitator. And I think that he could really fit well with them and add some solid depth off the bench.
Yeah, but at number 8, you're not looking for a bench player necessarily.
When you're talking about Golden State, I don't think you're cracking that starting roster right away.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't think that they're looking for somebody to come in right away, which is why I'm not exactly sure they care about the draft pick. I think they're more looking for depth pieces that can give an immediate return on investment right now.
Yeah.
All right.
Would you do a straight up Jaylen Brown for the number 2 pick?
Say that again?
Would you do, if you're the Celtics, would you trade Jaylen Brown for the number 2 pick straight up?
No. No, I would not. I don't think anybody is as good for the Celtics as Jaylen Brown is.
I think
Okay, so we have the number 2 selection in. The Golden State Warriors have selected center James Wiseman from Memphis with the number 2 overall pick. Again, this is one of those things where you take a look and they say, okay, we had James Wiseman with the injury to Klay Thompson. We need to utilize Andrew Wiggins in that position. We can't really use him to trade out. So at this moment in time, I think they had to continue on with James Wiseman as their immediate need at the center position. He gives them an athletic big man who can stretch the floor. He reminds me a lot of a little more athletic and polished Chris Bosh coming out of the 2004 draft. I think Chris Bosh coming out of Georgia Tech was one of those players who just he kind of transcended the game a little bit. He was a stretch four. He could play incredible defense. He was underneath the basket banging with the big centers. And if this was any other year, if this was 5 years ago, James Wiseman would have been the number one overall pick, no questions asked. However, with the way the league is transitioning away from that big man, James Wiseman ended up falling to number two, which I mean, again, isn't much of a fall, but he has become the new starting center right into the rotation for the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, I wouldn't see. I don't, even if the player is drafted, you can still trade for that player. We've seen it before. Most recently was Trae Young and Luka Doncic, where right after Luka was drafted, that's when the Mavericks called Atlanta and said, "We'll give you the next pick along with all these other assets. Let us and give us Luka because that's the guy we wanted." So we've seen these trades where they happen after the fact. Now that James Wiseman is officially off the board, I think that you might see a team try to come in here and trade something for James Wiseman.
It'll be very interesting. Just because they make the selection again doesn't mean that they keep that player. More times than not in the NBA draft specifically, players are traded. Their rights are traded on the undraft night. All right. We've talked enough about the Golden State Warriors. Let's move on to the Charlotte Hornets, who are now on the clock. Charlotte Hornets are in a constant state of disarray. Michael Jordan thought he had his premier point guard when they signed Terry Rozier away from the Boston Celtics and gave him a massive contract. That did not seem to be the case. Terry Rozier underperformed according to his contract last year, which is how the Hornets found themselves at this position. Outside of that, Malik Monk and Miles Bridges are pretty much the big names to watch here. Nicholas Batum has a player option for $27.1 million, which seems to be exercising. He wouldn't garner that much money out in the free agent market at this point in time. So, he's going to stay there. They have their 1 through 5 pretty much set, but I mean, you have to assume Charlotte is taking LaMelo Ball here. They've been rumored to want him from the get go, and it seems like their guy just fell right into their hands.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't like this spot for LaMelo Ball because he's a guy who needs to get the ball out of his hands, and I just don't see anybody on this roster who's really going to work well with him. I don't think there's somebody that's going to just get into an area where they can get the ball from LaMelo and pull up and shoot. They just don't have any consistent shot makers, and LaMelo's not going to be the most consistent shot maker either. So
Right.
you're getting a more of the same in this aspect where if LaMelo is going to be an asset to you, he needs to be surrounded by shot makers, by consistent shooters. This
Um,
is I know they want him, so we pretty much know LaMelo's going to go here, but
well, so the pick is in. The Charlotte Hornets, with the third selection in the 2020 NBA draft, have selected LaMelo Ball. He will now be heading to Charlotte. And I think the most important piece of this selection is that now we can probably see the one on one between LeVar Ball and Michael Jordan, which he claimed he would win. LeVar did, at least. So we are going to draft LaMelo Ball here. Uh, at the number 3 selection, Charlotte gets the guy that they had been targeting this entire time, and now two of the 3 Ball brothers are in the NBA, and it'll be very interesting. One in the East, one in the West. They don't have to face each other too often, only twice a year. But nonetheless, LaMelo Ball has now officially been selected to the NBA.
yeah, it's So I guess now he's going to be wearing number 3 because in his one of his press conferences he said that's how we do it. Lonzo is drafted at 2. He wears number 2. I'm going to be drafted at 1, 2, or 3, and I'll wear whatever number that is. It's not just going to be number 1 for me. So,
So what number does LiAngelo wear?
47 probably.
Well, I guess it'd have to be in the 60s or higher, right?
Yeah.
Because he wasn't drafted.
Yeah, you got to put it in the 60s because he looks like an offensive lineman. I mean,
Yeah, that man's playing the wrong sport. All right, so we take a look here at the Chicago Bulls being on the board. They are now in the number 4 position. Um, they have some interesting choices here. If I was with the Bulls right now, I'd take a look at this roster. You have Zach LaVine, Otto Porter Jr., um, Cristiano Felicio, Laurie Markkinen, Kobe White. Those are the guys you're building around. Even Wendell Carter Jr. But outside of that, you need a scorer. And for me, I think that guy would be Avdia out of Israel. Denny Avdia is, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. He has the highest floor of any player in this draft, meaning you know exactly what you're going to get from him, and he has the ability to continue to rise, being so young, and he's played professional basketball, albeit in Israel. We have seen what Europe has done to some of these players. Bring on Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, so on and so forth. A lot of these players who played professional basketball overseas that now come in as young athletes are able to find early and often success in the NBA.
yeah. I'm looking at LaMelo Ball's tape that they're showing, and half of it is from Chino Hills. I just it's just funny to me that this guy has been in the spotlight for so long now that it's almost like seeing it's like the when you see YouTubers in movies for the first time. It's like, well, you don't belong here. You used to see like LaMelo Ball in these YouTube videos, and you're like, and now he's in the NBA, and again, it's like that weird feeling like you don't belong here. It's just it's kind of a weird thing, but
It's kind of funny for me because LeVar Ball was he played football for the for the Carolina Panthers.
yeah.
So, he goes right back to Charlotte where LeVar started to make his roots. So very interesting. But we do have news. This is moving pretty quickly, but the 4th pick in the NBA draft with the Chicago Bulls is in, and the Bulls have selected Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams, the small forward out of Florida State. He was a freshman. He's 6'8" with a 6'11" wingspan. He's a very interesting prospect because he gives you plenty of shooting depth. He's an on-ball scorer. It'll be very interesting to see how he can coexist with players like Zach LaVine and Kobe White, because those are the guys that primarily do the scoring now. On top of that, Patrick Williams being a 6'8" small forward, he needs to gain a little more size, in my opinion. If they were going to go small forward again, I would have gone with Denny Avdia.
Yeah, that would have made more sense. I think you'd go with the guy who has done it professionally outside the NBA. We've seen that translates very well to the NBA, so you don't there's less of a risk factor. Take the guy with the higher floor. Don't take the guy with the higher ceiling. And I just think that you don't want to have a pick this high and have the chance at completely blowing it when you could have easily had a solid draft by just going with the safe player.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting for me to see Patrick Williams going to Chicago. Again, he's very long for a small forward. But he's also very young, and I think he's still got a lot of room to grow. This is not a pick that's going to help Chicago right now. He's going to be more of a project player, and that's not something you truly wanted to see at the number 4 pick. So it's interesting to me that that they thought he was the best selection for them at this point in time.
Yeah. The Now we got the Cavaliers up, and this is another interesting one because they have their pick. In our mock drafts, you had uh um
Denny Avdia.
you had Denny Avdia going to the Cavaliers. I had
No, you
no
had Denny Avdia
I
going
had
to the Cavs.
yes.
I had him going 4 to Chicago.
Right.
I right now I had I don't even remember who I had. Oh, I had Obi Toppin
Right.
going here.
So both of those options on the board. Um Now that Denny Avdia didn't go to the Bulls like you projected, should he go here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is again, he is an insane scorer. He can score from all over the court. He's not an on-ball handler, so you're gonna still need somebody like that's a point guard that can bring the ball up the court and command the offense. But he plays great in the pick and roll game. He can spot up, shoot anywhere, whether it's beyond the 3-point line or anywhere outside the paint. He's great. Mixed in with the fact that you have Kevin Love, Andre Drummond, and Larry Nance all at the center slash power forward position. They are going to be a very big team this year. And adding Denny Avdia at 6'9" would be very interesting. The only drawback to Avdia is his wingspan. As he stands at 6'9", his wingspan is 6'9". So you don't get much more. You don't get a lot of horizontal length with him when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, which is a drawback for some of these teams, especially with some of the athletes that are coming out.
Yeah, and yeah, Denny Avdia, he would fit. He would fit Cleveland well. I mean, at 6'9", he'd be playing the 3, so he'd be pretty decent size at the position. And then you got Kevin Love and Andre Drummond. This is the Cavaliers would be definitely improving with Avdia.
Yeah, for sure. As it stands right now, what I'm hearing, what Adrian Wojnarowski is providing for us as well, the Cleveland Cavaliers are actively fielding this pick. They do not want to make a selection here. They are trying to figure out some sort of trade package, either for more picks or for some pieces that they can utilize. And with Onyeka Okongwu, Denny Avdia, Obi Toppin, Isaac Okoro, some of these players that are still here, Killian Hayes, RJ Hampton, still all here. This would be an interesting spot for a team to trade up and say, let's get the guy that we thought might have gone already. Let's get him here now so we can secure it and make that trade with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, absolutely. That would the Cavaliers should probably trade out of this pick. That would make the most sense, but I still don't know. Depending on the price, Avdia still might not be worth it because he's not a perfect player by any means. I mean, he's still got a lot of his game to work on, and you're hoping that he's gonna immediately come over to the NBA and not want to finish out his contract in Tel Aviv. So you could be looking at waiting on a player for a couple of years or so, and is that worth trading up for now? I don't know. One person I'm interested to see right before the draft started, we learned that Onyeka Okongwu, he has a fractured foot, and I wonder fractured toe. Thank you. So he'll be ready for the start of the season, but he's probably gonna miss training camp. He's not gonna have any chemistry.
There is no training camp and there is no summer league this year.
I thought they said they were allowed to start practicing a couple weeks before the season started.
Practice, no training camp though.
I think they're going to be they're going to be utilized the same way. I don't think that you're going to do anything.
I don't think they're going to do 2-a-days and crazy things like that. I think they're going to run it just like drills and try to get the younger guys up to speed, or the newcomers up to speed as fast as possible.
Well, I think that's also part of the reason a lot of teams kind of want to trade out is you don't want why bring in new people if you don't have to, and that's going to make it harder to get chemistry going. I mean, we saw it in the bubble. Look at the Clippers and the Celtics just took so much time to get it going, and once they got it going, it was too late. And if you bring in new people into your roster, it's just going to take that much longer into the season. And it's a shortened schedule, 72 games this season.
Okay, I don't want to cut you off, but the Cleveland Cavaliers selection is in with the 5th pick in the 2020 NBA draft. The Cleveland Cavaliers have selected Isaac Okoro, the small forward out of Auburn. He is 6'6" with a 6'9" wingspan. I can show you his draft profile here. He has ideal physical tools as an NBA wing, extremely great finisher, smart decision maker, high IQ, great shooter. His issues where he needs to focus on are his on ball shot creating and his free throws, as well as like his quickness around the half court offense. I think everything else shows that he is NBA ready, but he needs to focus on working on his quickness and his footwork to be able to get around some of these defenses, because his lack of ability to score off the dribble is what held him from being the top selection in this draft. So Isaac Okoro out of Auburn going to the Cleveland Cavaliers with the selection. Interesting that they took Okoro here, especially since they might still be looking to trade his draft rights moving forward. I think Isaac Okoro doesn't hold the same value as an Onyeka Okongwu, Obi Toppin, Killian Hayes, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and we still got uh yeah, we have Tyrese Halliburton, Tyrese Maxey. I mean, there are some names up there still. This is just, I think this is who's really trading up at this point. I mean, the guys with any value of worth trading up for are gone.
I still think that an Obi Toppin or a Deni Avdija, these are guys that shouldn't be available with the number 6 overall pick. These are guys that should be top 3 or 4 selections. And now that they're here, I think a team that's seeing them drop doesn't want to wait too much longer to try to make a deal, assuming that they want to make this deal. Again, we talked a lot about Boston and a lot about New York. Maybe New York moves out of 8 and moves back and says, you know what? Let's get more draft picks, because Boston has number 14, number 26, and number 30. We'll give up number 8, and then on top of that, Boston will throw in another player, and then Boston can then come in and take Obi Toppin or Onyeka Okongwu, because you're assuming that those 2 players aren't the next selections in order. That's where a team like Boston would want to move forward.
Yeah, and this is also the Celtics I still think would much rather prefer to trade for Miles Turner. And I wonder if them bundling up and moving up and then quickly turning around and offering Gordon Hayward, Daniel Tice, and whatever, say the number 8 pick. I wonder if that's enough to get Miles Turner and a lower level player. Yeah.
It'd be very interesting. But the Atlanta Hawks did make their selection just a couple minutes ago. with the 6th pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Atlanta Hawks have selected Onyeka Okongwu, the freshman out of USC, at the center position, power forward position. He is 6'9". He has a 7'1" wingspan. He's extremely athletic, extremely versatile underneath the basket. Where he's going to struggle is his lack of ability to shoot outside of the paint. In the paint, I believe he can power through anybody and everyone. As it stands with the league that it is right now, he's going to limit offenses in that he won't be able to. And I think he is a redundancy to Clint Capella, who is already with the Hawks.
Yeah, but I think this is also another player who works well with Trae Young, a guy who's able to catch alley oops. He can do pick and rolls. He can. He's another great defensive player alongside Capella.
Well, I don't think it's going to be alongside Capella. I think that Capella now hits the trading block as a top target for some of these teams that aren't going to get the players that they wanted in the draft or in free agency. I would look for Capella to be moved from Atlanta and to see what they can get back in return as far as players or picks are concerned.
Again, another player that the Celtics might be interested in. Looking for a big man. I mean, there's a few options now, but between I would put Capella between Miles Turner and Steven Adams, and Capella's not not gonna have to give up too much more than all the draft picks and say Gordon Hayward, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be your best value. Take a lesser player than Miles Turner, but it costs much less. And then you could have a guy like Daniel Tice coming off the bench. You could work the trade a few ways, give him a few depth players along with Daniel Tice, and then you keep Gordon Hayward
for sure.
Because I mean, if you could put it together, you could have Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward, and Clint Capella, and that's for sure a starting 5 that can compete in the East right now.
No, for sure. I think that would be best case scenario for both teams. But we do have more news as this draft continues to move at what seems to be a record pace. The Detroit Pistons on the clock have already made their selection. With the 7th pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Detroit Pistons have selected Killian Hayes, point guard out of France. He is 6'5" with a 6'8" wingspan. Nick, tell us a little bit about Killian Hayes and what you've liked from him.
Yeah, Killian Hayes. I mean, he's originally from the U.S. and then he moved there as a child to France, and he's been playing there professionally. And he's a monster. He's a great on-ball guard. He is an amazing facilitator, just like LaMelo Ball. He's a little bit better in the shoot game. He can drive to the basket. He shows shades of Kyrie Irving, but he's not quite there. And I think that he's got good size for the position. I think that he's going to translate well, just like most European players do, to the NBA.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that Killian Hayes was so
overlooked.
I don't want to say overlooked. Each evaluator had him in different selections. Nobody could gauge exactly where he was going to end up. If you saw when I pulled up the draft profile on him, it showed that CBS had him ranked at number 4, ESPN has him ranked at number 10, and The Ringer had him ranked at number 1. I mean, to say from all the way from number 1 to number 10, that means that there's still a lot of question marks with this player and an assumption that he has either a long way to go or he hasn't had the ability against top talent to show exactly what he's capable of. Right here, the Detroit Pistons are assuming that he has the top talent, but that he hasn't had the competition to show out against. What I'll be interested to see with Killian Hayes is if he can work on his ball handling skills a little bit more, if he can work on his defense a little bit more, and if he can get a little more explosive when he has the ball. Because I believe that as an athlete, he's extremely versatile. Uh, he can create his own shot. He can create shots for others. My question for him is, can he do it in the paint? Can he create his own, and can he work on his ball handling on the offensive side? All right. So currently we
So
have no. Currently we have the Knicks who are on the clock with the 8th pick.
yeah, the Knicks, they need, I would, if I'm them, I'm making this selection. Um, what you have R.J. Barrett, you have Frank
Mitchell
Titilakina,
Robinson.
Malcolm Brogdon.
Nope.
I'm sorry,
Mitchell Robinson.
Mitchell Robinson.
Not
um,
Malcolm Brogdon.
um, uh, I mean, I don't know if a guy like Denny Avdija is going to be of any help here, so I could still see him falling.
I think he's a redundancy to RJ Barrett,
I
unfortunately.
could see a guy like Tyrese Maxey going here. Uh, I could see. Um, I I doubt that. I can't imagine they're gonna go with another big man. It just
Well, so here's the thing. New York has been targeting Obi Toppin going into this draft. That was a player they had hoped would fall to them. He did. He has fallen to them. But again, there are other areas of need for the New York Knicks right now. Um, a 6'9" power forward, as you can see with team needs here, is extremely low. But the point guard, the center, and the shooting guard position are all a very high or severe priority. And I think that's exactly where they need to focus. I don't think
let's
Obi Toppin is the guy that they need to be putting their number 8 pick into.
go to point guards on the list and of under available players.
Yep,
So let's look at Tyrese Halliburton.
sure.
Let's yeah, let's take a deep dive into his profile.
So it shows that he has good size for a point guard. That he's 6'5" with a 6'7" and a half wingspan. He's always in control of his body, lightning speed or explosive. He lacks lightning speed or explosiveness, but uses his natural abilities to create room. He takes long strides on drives to the rim, which helps against top defenders. He's a great playmaker, a very good team guy, one of the most efficient guards as a scorer and a facilitator. Um, Deep shooting range that will work well with NBA 3-point. This right here, the areas to improve, is exactly what the issue is going to be for him. Um, as a point guard, he played off ball a lot, and that is not something that you want from your point guard. You want a floor general of sorts. You want somebody who's going to take control of the offense, take control of your team, and his lack of ability to do that
Now, for the
definitely
Knicks
does
though,
help him.
RJ Barrett can be the ball carrier. He can be the on-ball guard. So I think
Yes, but you don't want him to be necessarily. You want him because the more he's involved, the less that there is for like everyone else to kind of grow and kind of figure everything out. Um, RJ Barrett is gonna get his. You need everybody else to step up. Don't force RJ Barrett into more of a niche role where he's playing outside of his comfort zone. Allow somebody else to be the floor general and let RJ Barrett play the game that he's comfortable with.
yeah, I mean it's hard to say how the Knicks are thinking right now. I mean, they never do what you would think they should do. So it's really hard to gauge what's piquing their interest, and unfortunately, it probably is Obi Toppin, a guy that's not going to offer them anything different, anything that's going to be an improvement over what they have now at the position. So, I mean, we're going to continue to see some of these names fall, and now some of these other names, some of these names that are falling, like Denny Avdia, Tyrese Halliburton, Tyrese Maxey. I mean, these guys, RJ Hampton is, getting there where it's almost worth trading up for these players now because it's not going to cost nearly as much. You might have to give up, say you have 2 firsts and a second. It might cost that at this point, which is nothing really, to go up and get one of these players.
Yeah, it'll be interesting what the Knicks choose to do here. Is right. Uh, it's very tough. They are in a very interesting predicament for the simple fact that they were good enough, they were bad enough to get a top 3 pick, and the lottery was not kind to them, and they ended up getting the 8th pick. So they missed out on some of the top scorers and floor generals that they could have had. Now they're left with some of these players. I'll be interested to see exactly where where they end up going with this. Um, but oh, well, here it is. With the 8th pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the New York Knicks have selected Obi Toppin, power forward from Dayton. Uh, you know, as I said earlier, he was the guy that they had hoped would fall to them. They stood true to the rumors. They get the guy that they had been longing for, the ranked number 6 overall player in this draft. They get him at number 8. Some positive value there for a Knicks team, but overall, I would have liked to have seen them to
I
either
don't
trade
like it
at
the way you
position.
said that. It sounded like my team, like Nick's team.
Oh, the Knicks.
Oh, I was like, no,
That
no,
was the
this is
Patriots.
not my team. If this is my team, Obi Toppin is one of the last people I'm drafting.
Oh, I like Obi Toppin. I
No,
think
I'm
he's a
not saying
very
he's a
good
bad
player.
player. I'm just saying, like, he doesn't fit any of their needs. He doesn't do anything
No,
different for
again,
him.
he's a power forward, and they had Bobby Portis and Theo Pinson and Taj Gibson, and how many more power forwards could you need on on the roster?
A lot of people look to be pretty shocked that Denny Avdia is falling. It does look, however, though, the Wizards could be changing that real quickly.
Yeah, the Wizards had been interested in Denny Avdia, pairing him with John Wall, Bradley Beal, giving them another scorer. Obviously, they like Rui Hachimura a lot at the power forward position. If you look at the rest of their roster here, Mo Wagner, Isaac Bonga, they have some need here at the bigger end of the scale. So I would be interested to see if they would go with a 6'9" small forward, or if they'd rather go with somebody like Precious Achuia, or even where Udoka Azubuike. I think he is extremely underrated here. Having him at number 33, I think he is a top 15 player. Um, and their next pick is at 37. They might be able to wait him out if other people allow him to fall. Um, but to have Denny Avdia still here, I think this is probably where the Washington Wizards will end up going.
Yeah, I mean, I would if if I'm the Mavericks, Denny Avdia. I mean, it fits what I'm doing, right? Putting the all international team together. So you might think it could happen. The Mavs could try to sway, get themselves into this spot. I mean, what can is there anything really that the Mavericks can offer Washington that's worth trading up? Because I don't know if you can take a look at draft order, but Uh, where
I can't.
are the um I'm sorry, where are the Mavericks drafting? What picks do they have, if any?
Um,
I'm just trying to think of what capital they have. So okay, they have the 18th pick.
yep.
So say you have the 18th pick, you're trying to move up 9 spots. The
Well,
draft is completely.
I can help you out a little bit here. The Washington Wizards have actually made their selection
Give me the sad news.
with the ninth pick in the 2020 NBA draft. The Washington Wizards have selected Denny Avdia, small forward from Israel.
So
So
now you got
again,
now you have John Wall, Bradley Beal, and Denny Avdia. I mean, that's pretty solid.
I mean, though, yeah, you have some great scorers. John Wall coming back healthy. Bradley Beal.
I think you're lacking a little bit of defense, though. I think that is
It's very
going
possible. Rui
for the
Hachimura definitely
East.
helps with that.
It's gonna be very tough in the East, where it's very defensive heavy, especially with Toronto and Boston.
I would say they are going to definitely target a player like Udoka Azubuike. Um, I think he's going to help them a lot. If not, look for them to go after somebody like let's see here, not Khalil Whitney, Zeke Naji. He
Zignaji.
definitely helped them a lot. Tyler Bay, if he's available, definitely go after him. He's a little undersized for the power forward position, but he could definitely help. Um, they play a lot of small ball with that, but I don't think they would have a shot at Jalen Smith or Sadiq Bey or any of these guys that are available at 37. So right now, taking Denny Avdia, they get the scorer, and they're going to have to figure out what's next on the defensive side of the ball.
I'm not trying to make fun of any of these athletes, any of these draft players, but I find it interesting that more of these NBA players, like a lot of them, are very emotional after they get drafted compared to other sports where they're all just joyful, celebrate, like they celebrate. A lot of them just kind of like sit there and really like think about it, like it like they can't believe it came to fruition. But it's really interesting to see how they're different from other athletes.
Well,
It's
it's tough
a different
because
sport.
The NBA only has 2 rounds, 30 teams total, so 60 overall picks. If you are a top 60 player in the world at your age and range for being drafted, that is a very humbling moment for some of these players, especially the top 10. You're basically saying you are at the top of your game as a young athlete. You are the future of what this sport is going to become. And we are placing the faith of our franchise into your hands to help carry the torch. And I think that is extremely powerful for some of these young athletes. You have to remember in the NBA, I mean, just look, sophomore, freshman, freshman, sophomore. These kids are 17, 18, 19 years old. Well, not 17, I guess, not anymore. But 18 and 19 years old, getting drafted to the NBA, you went from a college player to making millions of dollars. I think there's a whole, like, all of your hard work and dedication, the long nights, the travel weekends, they have all paid off. They have all come to this moment. This is the climax of where you're supposed to be. And now, as the famous Dr. Disrespect tends to say, you've made it to the top of the mountain, but you're only halfway up. They have made it to the top of their mountain, but they have to continue to climb. They still have to improve on their game and show exactly why they were selected here.
Absolutely. This is for such a poorly graded draft class. It's going to be much harder for them than normal to prove why they are the future stars of this league with the circumstances we're in. You said no training camp, couple weeks of practice before the season starts, it's going to be tough for them to get any minutes. I don't really see more than 3 people getting a starting role out of the gate. It's going to take a lot of time for this draft class to come to form. It's this is going to be a project for every single team. Doesn't matter if you drafted Anthony Edwards or if you drafted Obi Toppin or anybody. It really doesn't matter. Everybody's going to be slow in their progression through their NBA career. We're not going to see any Lukas or Trey Youngs or Jason Tatum's that just come onto the scene in their first year.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see where some of these players can progress to. We haven't seen that one player that's going to take the league by storm just yet. Every draft has one, whether they're drafted in the second round or in the first round or they go undrafted. But every draft has that one player and says, how did we not see that? How did we not see that in that player? As early as Luka Doncic going the third overall pick, how he wasn't selected number one is beyond me. And to think that he was actually traded by the Atlanta Hawks for Trey Young is makes you think, okay, what did the Hawks see in Trey Young that made them want him more than Luka Doncic? And it's obviously hindsight is always going to be 2020. But at where we are now, it seems to be like it's a crapshoot whether you're going to get the guy that is going to carry your franchise, or if they're going to be just another role player and you're going to continue on where you are now.
Yeah, the Suns are interesting. This would have been a great spot for Obi Toppin. Could you imagine if Obi Toppin fell to the Phoenix Suns and you had DeAndre Ayton, you had Obi Toppin, Devin Booker, and CP3? All you're missing is a small forward.
Yeah, Mikhail Bridges. Yeah, Mikhail Bridges. So he's your 3.
He's your. I'm not saying they don't have a 3. I'm saying like a legit 3. Like if they could have been solid across the board.
Right, but even Obi Toppin, again, they have Ayton, but they have Kaminsky who will also play next to Ayton. You're gonna have both of them.
Kaminsky could easily be a bench player. He's not really a starter.
But if you start him at the power forward position, you play the quote unquote twin towers with CP3 and Devin Booker. On top of that, then you look at some of these small forwards like Aaron Naismith, Robert Woodard, Kenyon Martin Jr., Josh Hall. The list goes on. If you take a look at some of these guys, or even Tyrese Maxey or Devin Vassell, some of these players that are on the taller side, Josh Green, I think some of these players could come in and help the Phoenix Suns right now. They could help them with scoring. They need somebody who's a little more efficient on defense that can take control of the defensive side of the ball for the front court, and I think for the back court. And I think Phoenix will be in a very enviable position moving forward.
For sure, and they still have free agency that hasn't even opened up yet. You could target a small forward here, and go get a guy like Danilo Gallinari, and put him at your 4. I mean, there is definitely ways for the Phoenix Suns to be very relevant this upcoming season, and I think we've seen CP3 get chemistry with people very quickly. We saw it last season. We saw it with Houston. It didn't take too long for him to get going. He was never in a serious funk. So I think that you can count on CP3 to be very strong for most of the season. Devin Booker is going to continue to light the league on fire, and I think DeAndre Ayton is going to continue to improve. He's still a very young center, so I could see him improving, especially with more talent around him. Take some pressure off of him. He can work more one-on-ones. This is a prime spot for a lot of free agents. I think Phoenix is going to be very desirable.
For sure. So with the 10th pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Phoenix Suns have selected Jalen Smith, the power forward out of Maryland. At 6'10", he has a 7'1.5" wingspan, extremely long, extremely athletic. Let's take a look at his draft profile. Oh, well, I guess we could have take a look at his draft profile. Um, but Jalen Smith is one of those players who's extremely physical. He's great on the defensive side of the ball. It's interesting to me that they went with yet another big man to pair with DeAndre Ayton. Obviously, he will now start at the power forward position. Um, it's definitely interesting. He's a little more of a redundancy than I would like, especially at the number 11, or sorry, at the number 10 pick. I thought that's a little bit of a reach. But overall, Phoenix gets a position of need, and they move forward with continuing to better this team.
They sure do. Um, this yeah. So you fill one of those spots. Now you go into free agency. Maybe look at a guy like Goran Dragic, add him to the team, or if you want to go bigger, because I'm thinking you add Goran, you could move Devin Booker to the 3. It's a little bit small, but it could work. Or you could get a bigger forward, and there's Serge Ibaka. You can put him at the 4 if you don't want to, um, play your rookies right away. There's a lot of players on in free agency that could definitely fill the rest of the voids for the Phoenix Suns.
For sure, it'll be interesting for Phoenix moving forward. But they have some stout competition in the West, and that starts with the pedigree of winning in the NBA, and that's the San Antonio Spurs. Even though they haven't been there in the last couple of years, people take a look at Greg Popovich and know that he is somebody who can turn a team around and get them into championship form in almost no time. And you take a look at this roster, you have DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeJounte Murray, Rudy Gay, Patty Mills, Trey Lyles, Derek White. These are some big pieces that can help you win, especially in the West. They're going to make a lot of noise. I'm not sure that they're in championship contention, but they're definitely they're definitely vying for a top or a bottom 3 playoff spot. And we all know once you make it to the playoffs, anything is possible.
For sure. Yeah. Um, yeah. The competition's definitely heating up. A lot of teams are starting to get better. The landscape of the NBA, it changes every year, but we're starting to see some young teams really come on top, and Phoenix is one of them. Dallas is another. Some really good competition right now in the NBA. Um, should be another fun season. I absolutely loved what I saw in the bubble, and I can't wait to watch what the NBA has in store next season. Hopefully, they put together a great schedule. Hopefully, we can get some good games for Christmas to right at the beginning of the year. We can see maybe possibly see some of these rookies play on a Christmas Day game. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. You know, the league wanted to get their Christmas games in. They make a lot of money and ad revenue and everything on Christmas Day. They ended up getting that done. The players association agreed to the quick timeline turnaround. No training camp, basically no off season. We go right from here to the free agency opening on Friday. Once we go through free agency, uh, we'll have just a couple of weeks of practices, and then we start games about this time next month.
Mhm.
And don't forget, it is a shortened NBA season. We are at 72 games this season versus the normal 82.
Yeah. Uh, it's and I believe they also increased the playoff size again, didn't they? Wasn't that part of the rules for the season as well? They were
Yes, they did.
so we're gonna see more talent. We're gonna see more teams make the playoffs. It's gonna be exciting. We're gonna have games almost every day. Oh, I mean, probably every day. It's gonna be a lot of fun. That was one of the best things that happened after the pandemic started was the return of the NHL and the NBA having sports on every day, something to take your mind off of everything going on. It was great to have, and the NBA definitely put on a show. Uh, it's something that definitely is going to carry over into December and moving forward, because a lot of people still remember those good times they had watching basketball a few months ago, and they can't wait to see it again. So the NBA definitely, in my opinion, they won during the pandemic. So huge job, great job done by them and Adam Silver, and they did a great job of putting it on. I mean, they really had the most success out of any sport right now, possibly besides the UFC, that has put on events and really limited the number of positive cases.
Yeah, for sure. They did a great job, and I hope that can continue. I expect that Adam Silver will continue to work with both the owners and the Players Association to do whatever is best for both the league and the players. He seems to have a good relationship with everybody around him, and if there's anybody that in sports that I trust to get it done the right way, I believe it'll be Adam Silver. Um, with that being said, we do have the next pick in with the 11th pick in the 2020 NBA draft. The San Antonio Spurs have selected Devin Vassell, the shooting guard out of Florida State. He stands 6'5" with a 6'10" wingspan. Um, as I pulled up before, Vassell's draft profile shows that he is an elite scorer and an elite defender. He is a constant hustle player. His lack of range is a little issue. He's more of a spot up shooter than an on ball shot creator. Um, Other than that, he is very long. He's very rangy, and he plays with a high energy and high intensity. And if you're talking about players and their energy, and if you're somebody like this is exactly who you want on your team. They're going to give you 110% every time down the road. This is the ultimate Greg Popovich selection here. He is exactly what the Spurs look for in somebody who's going to give it their all every single time. Um, Outside of that, again, he's not overly athletic. He's not, the greatest of shooters. He's not the greatest of passers. He's pretty middle of the road to average at all of those things. But his ability to work with the players that we listed, like DeMar DeRozan, DeJounte Murray, Patty Mills, LaMarcus Aldridge, those guys are going to be able to carry the load, and he is going to help them, help take some of the load off of them, and they will be able to move forward.
Yeah, and it looks like the Kings will be selecting Tyrese Halliburton at number 12. This is a guy that they can't believe dropped to them, and surprising. It's very surprising to myself as well. This is a guy who definitely should have gone top 10. He has top 10 talent. He's another great guard that's going to play very well for the Kings if they do select him here. Um, yeah, great selection by the Kings. Good to see Halliburton's finally drafted. And we're getting towards the middle of the draft, and we still have some pretty big names available: Tyrese Maxey, Aaron Naismith, R.J. Hampton. I mean, there's some good talent still left on the board for the end of the lottery picks right here.
For sure. Sorry, I have Knicks fans texting me asking me if Obi Toppin is the real deal. But Tyrese Halliburton to the Kings is just, I mean, to think that he made it all the way to 12 is just surreal. They get a top 10 player, didn't have to give up anything. And they add him to their core with Buddy Hield. I think they are going to be a formidable 1-2 punch in Sacramento. And who knows, maybe they can keep Bogdan Bogdanovic from moving on, and maybe they add him to the rotation as well.
Yeah, with Bogdan Bogdanovic now being a restricted free agent, it might just be easier to sign him and build the team up. You could definitely start with these guys, Halliburton and Bogdanovic. So
for sure,
very good pieces. Very good pieces. They're still quite a ways away from being competitive and relevant, but they're headed in the right direction with Tyrese Halliburton.
So the Pelicans are currently on the clock. They are discussing trade scenarios. They are looking to move out of number 13. At this point, as we talked about with some of the teams that were looking to move up, it would be very hard for them to try to trade out of this spot. Not a lot of top tier talent still available. But if you take a look at their roster, Eric Bledsoe, who they just traded for, as well as George Hill. They also have JJ Redick, Lonzo Ball. That's a lot of point guards. Added in with Zion Williamson, Jackson Hayes, and Josh Hart. On top of the fact that Brandon Ingram is still a restricted free agent. What my thinking is that they need to go with a big man here. They need somebody who is going to help anchor them and possibly spread the floor, but I would look at a Sadiq Bey or a Precious Achiuwa here. I think those are two players to keep an eye on. And then if you take a look at the centers, I don't believe any of them right now are worth this selection. I think it's still a little too early for Udoka Azubuike. Xavier Tillman just hasn't shown me enough to be a first round selection. Isaiah Stewart could sneak his way in. I know he's ranked number 27. His 7'4" wingspan definitely helps him. It helps overcome some of his athletic disabilities. But overall, I would take a look at the power forward position, the Precious Achiuwa and Sadiq Bey. I think those are probably where the Pelicans will want to go if they may end up making this selection.
Is there anybody in particular you can see worth trading this number 13 pick for? Could you see like Steven Adams?
No, because I think Steven Adams is worth a little bit more. Again, Eric Bledsoe and George Hill, one or both of these guys will not remain on the roster. I believe they want to move forward with Lonzo and JJ as their 1 and 2. Maybe they keep Eric Bledsoe as a rotational piece. George Hill, however, will not be on the roster. I can almost guarantee that. Look for a team who needs a veteran guard.
Miami.
No, it could be Miami. It could end up being Philadelphia. It could there's a lot of teams. Even Charlotte could kick the tires on him and pair him with the newly acquired LaMelo Ball. There's a lot of situations here. The Pelicans are in a good state, but they do have some work they still need to do in the front court.
They definitely do have some work to do in the front court. A big man could work here for the Pelicans. I'm willing to take a flyer in this scenario, and I really am curious to see how a guy like Alexei Pokachevsky could do on a team like the Pelicans, where you have Lonzo Ball, another great facilitator. You have Zion there. You don't need a big bruiser alongside Zion. Pokachevsky is great in the pick and roll. He's going to help on the offensive boards, on the defensive boards. I think that
my only issue with Alexei is that at 7 feet tall, his 7'3" wingspan, he is so small, like just physically. Like he can get bullied around by anybody who has any muscle whatsoever. So my idea for him would be you need to put on some muscle to compete in this league.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen guys like Ball, Manute Ball, guys who have very thin frames that excel very well. They know how to take punishment. They might be small. They might, they might be very, very, very thin, but they're still able to do well. And you look at a guy like Pokachevsky who has played overseas. Those are big guys he's facing, and he has done a pretty decent job so far. I think that is going to help him as a player in the NBA. So it's not like he's a completely unproven player. This guy has done it in other pro leagues. I think that he could definitely be an asset to a team like the Pelicans in the NBA.
For sure. All right. Well, the selection is in. They took literally every second they had. But with the 13th pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select Kyra Lewis Jr., point guard from Alabama, standing at 6'3" with a 6'6" wingspan. Kyra is a very questionable selection for the Pelicans, as again we noted Eric Bledsoe, JJ Redick, Lonzo Ball, George Hill, all on the roster at the point guard position. Now you add Kyra Lewis Jr. I'm a little intrigued as to see what exactly they are trying to pull off here in New Orleans. The selection of Kyra Lewis tells me that at least George Hill and now Eric Bledsoe are both going to be off this roster by the time the season starts.
Yeah, I don't know, unless they're making the selection just to trade him. Someone's got to go, and it's definitely an interesting selection. I can't remember the last time an Alabama basketball player was a star. Yeah, taking this high, a star in the league. I mean, it's definitely.
His biggest issue is right here, and this is what I saw on his tape. He is 165 pounds at 6'3". We talked about Alexei being small. This guy is tiny. He is going to get bullied by some of the thicker, stockier point guards, especially at the same height. You look at the first overall selection in this draft, Anthony Edwards. He is a much bigger and thicker point guard here that would be able to run all over him. He needs to work on a lot of different things: his shooting, his dribbling, his consistency. He lacks his fundamentals at key moments. There's a lot of questions as to why Kyra Lewis was the selection here, especially for a young, talented team that needs a big man more than anything else. Kyra Lewis now being drafted by the Pelicans. I just shake my head, and he's extremely fast, but it's uncontrolled fast, and that's what you have to worry about is, can he end up controlling the ball? We saw John Wall and his elite speed get up and down the court, but his ball handling are on par with some of the best in the league. Kyra Lewis does not bring that, and that's why he's not John Wall. Also, again, he needs to gain some weight.
Now we have the first of 3 Celtics first round picks up, and I'm interested to see what they do here. So let's go to the top. You have 2 guys I'm
Precious
very
Achiuwa.
Yeah,
and I like RJ Hampton
I'm
too.
very interested in RJ Hampton and Tyrese Maxey. I think these are guys that can definitely help the Celtics. They the Celtics are not looking for a starter in any means in any of these players available. So I think that you're looking for bench depth that somebody that can form into bench depth. I mean, we've seen the guys over the years take a while to make it onto the active roster. I mean, they might be sitting in the G League for a little while developing. Um, so I think that Tyrese Maxey and RJ Hampton are two guys that could definitely develop over the years and become a player that can contribute to the Celtics team uh, down the line.
It's tough because again the Celtics took Tremont Waters, Carson Edwards, um, Romeo Langford. Like they have a lot of top tier, uh, budding, uh, starting caliber players that just don't get enough playing time because of how deep they are. Uh, and then you look at a player like Taco Fall. Um,
So Mike,
what's
uh,
up?
Woj is now saying Boston is targeting Aaron Naismith at
Okay,
14.
at
That is
another small forward. It'll be interesting to see exactly what that uh, what that is going to entail. In fact, I am getting word that with the 14th pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Boston Celtics have selected Aaron Naismith. So they bring on Naismith, and if we take a look at here at his draft profile, uh, he's he is 6'6", 213 pounds, almost a 7-foot wingspan, which is absolutely incredible for somebody who at his height. Unlimited range, which fits exactly what Brad Stevens is looking for. He wants anybody who can create their own shot or make any shot on the court. Um, he is very coachable. He's an intelligent defender. Your classic 3-and-D player here, and that's exactly what the Celtics lacked in their depth rotations last year, as they expected Shemi Ojeleye to be that guy, and he turned out to not be able to shoot the ball as well. I think Aaron Naismith will take over the Shemi Ojeleye role, and they'll move on from him in the rotation. Aaron Naismith now becoming a Boston Celtic.
Yeah, it's an exciting pick. Another guy who has the potential to really be somebody down the stretch. And he'll have the time. He can take his time. He doesn't have to rush into any sort of role for this team. So you know that you're going to be maximizing his potential when you call upon him. So
For sure.
Aaron Naismith, great choice. Um, it's we're now at the halfway mark of the first round, and Orlando at number 15 is targeting Cole Anthony.
For sure. Nick, if you can take us, I'm going to stop sharing my screen as the mock draft is now over for us, so we can't show anymore.
Sure. So
I'm going
let's
to
let's take it on
leave
over
that.
here.
All right.
Okay. So
Perfect.
all right. So that was, I mean, the first 14 picks were very interesting. I think they were very straightforward, except for Denny Avdia.
Avdia. Yep.
I think Avdia fell a lot further than he should have. He was a top 5 pick in my book, and he fell to number 9 to the Washington Wizards. Um, I think that could be the steal of the draft right now. I think that he has the highest floor of anybody in the draft, and I think that he still has a lot of room to improve. So, great pick by the Wizards. I think that's going to pay off immensely for them down the stretch.
Yeah, for sure. And as we continue to break news, uh, with the 15th overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Orlando Magic have selected point guard Cole Anthony. Um, just to iterate what we're looking at with the Orlando Magic. They have uh they have a very interesting team dynamic right now. We don't exactly know what's going to happen with Aaron Gordon. We don't exactly know what's going to happen with Nikola Vukovic. Um, Needless to say, they have a lot of question marks, some young talent for sure, but we don't exactly know and understand where the Magic are trying to go moving forward. Cole Anthony helps provide some sort of idea with that as they finally get a floor general, somebody who, in my opinion, should have been a top 10 pick. Cole Anthony fell simply because of the amount of depth that ended up being in this draft. But Cole Anthony headed to Orlando is going to be an interesting pair with Jonathan Isaac and Aaron Gordon, Markel Fultz, um, so on and so forth. They have some interesting players to pair him with.
For sure. Yeah. Um, I'm looking at the best available, and I'm really liking RJ Hampton coming up here. There's some teams that need depth at guard. I think that he is a guy you can get some production out of right away if you need it. And I think this is, if he starts dropping here, I'm I could see somebody trying to push up to get him. Uh, so it's amazing um how far back television takes compared to the internet. Gotta love the age of the internet for the speed at which it works.
Well, everybody's an insider nowadays, right? So everybody's trying to get the scoop as fast as possible. Um, I I don't know. It's interesting. Let me just look at what we got here.
So we we've got some guys. Yeah, Precious Achua, he's available. We have R.J. Hampton, Tyrese Maxey. You know, there's still a lot of guys that are surprising to be in this spot. It's very interesting for sure.
Yeah. Um, we have at number 16 the Detroit Pistons making the selection as they acquired that pick from the Portland Trailblazers earlier today, I believe. Number
Um,
16, what's up?
so this is breaking from Woj. Minnesota is acquiring Oklahoma City's Ricky Rubio, the 25th and 28th picks, for a package that includes the number 17 pick. So
Number 17 coming from the Minnesota Timberwolves via the Brooklyn Nets. So the Timberwolves uh, reacquire Ricky Rubio and um, reacquire both 25, or they acquire 28, 5 and 28 for number 17.
Rubio is going to be great for Minnesota off the bench. I think that he's going to be a fantastic player back there.
Well, I mean, he left because he didn't want to be there. So
but
they
you've
traded
got
back for him.
you got to think that was when there really wasn't anybody there. He left in the very early stages of Cat's career, so I think that you now that D'Lo's there, you know you got Anthony Edwards. I think that this is a better place to be than it used to. So it's Ricky Rubio. He shouldn't be upset going to this team. He should be excited for the opportunities ahead, and he is going to get a good amount of playing time as well.
For sure. And if I'm Oklahoma City, the reason I make this deal is because RJ Hampton is still available at number 17. RJ Hampton looks like he should be the selection moving forward. I would be very concerned if they chose to go in a different direction here.
Yeah. Um. So at number 16, Detroit is targeting Isaiah Stewart, center. I think that this now clears the way for Oklahoma to get their guy, a guy that they're, I guess, surprised that fell to them. RJ Hampton looks like going to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Very, very interesting. And, with the way the draft is moving, the way people are picking, with the 25th and 28th picks, normally you're not really getting much there, but there could be some upset players that drop late into the first round.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a lot of again. I talked about how this draft was deep because there was no top tier talent. They were all around the same level. So again, the same player at number 4. You could get a player at number 4, and it could be the same talent level as somebody at 14 or even later than that. And I truly believe that. I don't. This draft is extremely deep for the simple fact that there wasn't much of a discrepancy between the two.
Yeah. I still think that there is potential. This draft class has some talent that we're gonna look back on this draft and think it was an underrated draft. But I think that we're gonna guys like LaMelo and Cole Anthony, Cole Anthony, Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman. These are guys that are going to be big in the NBA. That's my true opinion on how this
Yes,
class.
my thought process is that they're not going. Most of them are not going to come in and be top tier players right away, like a Luka Doncic or a Jason Tatum or what's his name,
Trae Young.
Trae Young. Yeah, a lot of these players are going to take time to develop. Even the top tier players like the Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Balls, I don't see the meteoric rise that to stardom in the NBA with any of these players.
No, definitely not. Um, it's it's interesting. Uh, we haven't seen any trades yet. We have not seen any trades yet. Um, I I wonder at this point if there are going to be any.
Well, we did see one. We saw Oklahoma City move to 17
Yeah, that.
from 25 and 28.
But that pick, I mean, it hasn't happened yet. We're still waiting on Detroit officially, but it's interesting.
For sure. Very, very, very interesting. Um, I don't exactly know where technically Portland is making the selection here, but it is Detroit's to make. So for those of you who don't know or understand how the NBA works, you can't necessarily trade the draft pick unless it's done prior to the draft. A certain amount of time prior to the draft. Otherwise, the team that originally has it makes the selection, and then they trade the draft rights of that player. They make the selection based on what the team they traded it to tells them to make. So essentially, it's just you're a middleman for a few more days, and then you end up trading the player once they've been selected.
Yeah, it's the NBA is it's quite interesting. I don't think anybody has an off season like them, with between the draft and free agency and
No,
trades that get put together. I mean, it's crazy to see these 3, 4, 5 team trades that take place, and to follow all the pieces and figure out who's going where, and you know you never know where you could be on any given day. I mean, we've seen players the last few days have been on. I mean, Danny Green was a Laker, and then he was a Thunder, and now he is a Sixer. It's very, very interesting how the NBA works.
Or a player like Trevor Ariza who gets traded to Houston for a third time and gets traded from Houston for a third time, all in the matter of 24 hours. So that there's a whole hell of a lot here going on. But we do have a selection in, as we talked about. Let me just pull this up. Oh, it ran away. Hang on one second while I look for this. Um, yeah. Okay. So sorry about that. Everything's kind of getting jumbled up right now. Um, the Detroit Pistons via the Portland Trailblazers, with the 16th pick in the NBA draft, have selected. I just lost it again. I'm sorry. Isaiah Stewart, the center. Uh, he provides a big body for Detroit. Obviously, losing Andre Drummond, in via trade, obviously, to Cleveland last year. They needed to replace the big body, and they get the guy that they had been targeting the entire time. Isaiah Stewart now becomes a Detroit Piston. It should also be noted that Detroit's GM Troy Weaver worked with Stewart's college coach, University of Washington's Mike Hopkins, as at Syracuse as an assistant coach before coming to the NBA. So there's a lot of ties there, a lot of understanding and knowledge there about the player, and a lot of trust moving forward.
Oh, so just crossed the halfway point of the first round. Oklahoma City is 17, and interesting, they are targeting Serbia power forward Alexei Pokachevsky. Not
Well, not targeting, but they've made the selection.
Have they?
They
Okay.
have made the selection.
So that's interesting because we were just saying, or we were talking about them going after RJ Hampton here at 17.
Yeah.
RJ Hampton still falling down the board. I don't understand this one. Is there something to know? Is there like what is
There's
wrong?
got to be something that teams did not like with him, and there had been talk about maybe he was a little more pompous than he should have been, or maybe I don't want to say pompous, but maybe full of himself, or just the idea that he forewent the traditional college route to play. Semi-professional basketball here in the States instead of going overseas.
I don't think you hold
That
that against him because you see what Lamelo
it's the
did.
Right, but Lamelo ended up going overseas and playing in a professional league against players who were playing for jobs and so on and so forth. RJ Hampton is he was a top player coming out of high school, a lot of hype around him, and he lost a lot of that luster because he never went to a top tier organization. I think a lot of teams are a little weary of him against NBA talent since they never got to see him against college players or professionals abroad. So I'll be interested to see where we go now with RJ Hampton, especially because Oklahoma City seemed to be one of the best fits for him. Um, it's going to be very, very interesting. Um, you have the Dallas Mavericks at 18, the Brooklyn Nets at 19, and the Miami Heat at 20. If I had to guess, RJ Hampton's not making it past 20. The Miami Heat would take RJ Hampton in a heartbeat.
For sure.
Um, and then even Dallas, I think, could give him an opportunity to be their point guard, even though they have Luka Doncic. RJ Hampton and Luka together could be something special.
Definitely. I this is probably a little bit homerish of me, but Celtics package those the 24 and the 30 up, and go after you know go after him. I think that RJ Hampton's somebody who could be a benefit to them. The Celtics needed a guard that could control the team when Kemba's not there. And I think that RJ would be able to do that for them. So this is would be the player worth trading up for. Another player I wouldn't mind going after is Tyrese Maxey. I mean, looking for an on-ball guard. I mean, he is a great player, has a lot of upside, needs to be coached up, but a guy like Brad Stevens, or as we get into these, we're getting into the playoff teams. So these are all coaches that are capable of coaching their players up, getting them to the level at which it takes to play in the playoffs and against the best competition. So some good names still dropping down the board. Very surprising.
Yeah. So I have here a little more information. So let's start with the number 18 pick because that's exactly where we are right now. Let's see if I can find exactly. Here we are. So with the 18th overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Dallas Mavericks have selected shooting guard Josh Green. Josh Green is a freshman out of the University of Arizona. He stands at 6'6", and he has a 6'10" and a half wingspan. A very lengthy number two guard. Definitely somebody who can help. He's got great spot up three shooting. He's great in a lot of areas. He needs to work on his ball handling, but he's not an on-ball guard, so he won't have to worry about that too much. He's a smart decision maker, but sometimes he gets a little lazy. He's going to have to reel that in, especially against top tier competition. Right now, his offensive repertoire is very limited, but he's a great defender and he's a great spot up 3-point shooter. A perfect 3-and-D guy for Dallas, a role player to mix in with Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, and now we have the Clippers trading Landry Shamet to the Nets for the number 19. Shamet for the number 19 pick. I'm not the best with names. If you've been listening at all over the last,
it's actually a three-way deal that includes the Pistons with Luke Kennard heading to the Clippers.
Okay.
So the Pistons trade Luke Kennard to the Clippers as well.
And the Clippers also received the number 19 pick.
Yes.
So Clippers, you lose. It looks like Lou Williams is going to be gone, potentially. You're gonna need to bolster that defense. I'm sorry, for the second team. I could see Tyrese Maxey, RJ Hampton. If they wanted to replace Montrezl Harrell, if he doesn't resign, go after Precious Achua. So I could see a guy like him going to the Clippers and helping them out.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Precious Achua is still here. 7'2" wingspan at 6'9" power forward. He presents an interesting dynamic. He's got we went over his elite physical profile. He has very good pick and roll upside with Kawhi Leonard there to be the number one scorer and defender. Plus Paul George. All they need is some bodies that can be good role players. Where they struggled last year is their ability to rebound the ball, and that's where Precious Achua.
Woj just clarified it. The Pistons are actually receiving the number 19 pick. Now they're third in the top 20 of this draft.
Jeez.
So Detroit all in on this draft class. They see something no one else sees.
Yeah, they just want to hedge their bets and see if one of their picks pans out.
I mean, hey, if you're going through rebuilds, you might as well take a shot. If it fails, we'll just call you the Jets.
Damn.
Any shot I can take at the Jets, I'll take.
Let's see. Let me pull up the Detroit Pistons here. Okay, I can't spell apparently. Here we go. All right. So, the Detroit Pistons, we're looking at, they did trade away Luke Kennard, but they have Blake Griffin, Thon Maker, Brandon Knight, Tony Snell, John Henson, Derrick Rose. These are the guys that are going to be playing the most minutes for them. They need to get younger, and I think that's exactly what they're doing, because all of these guys are aged veterans, minus Thon Maker, but he's not a top tier talent either. So yeah, this is an interesting
I'm sorry,
three-way trade.
Who are the first two picks they had? Halliburton.
I didn't go over their picks.
Oh, okay. So this now being their third, now two teams with 3 picks in the first round, along with the Celtics. And that's going to be a theme moving forward for the next foreseeable future with the Rockets and Thunder, all their draft capital. We'll be hearing their names a lot over the next 5 or 6 years.
Just so we know, with the way that players that are drafted work for the NBA, they can't be traded right away. So they have to sign their deal, and then normally they have a 30-day restriction period where they can't be traded. Obviously, this is a shortened NBA season, so that 30-day period has also been shortened. So the soonest they can sign is November 21st. November 21st, if they sign, they can then be traded on December 2nd. So any of these players who are now, teams can negotiate trades and agree in principle to them, but they cannot physically have these trades go through if until after the rookies have signed their deal, and then they can trade them a few days later. It looks like Detroit is targeting Sadiq Bey at number 19.
Interesting choice. Get a little bit of a bigger guy here. He's going to definitely help out on defense. So it's a good building block. Definitely not a game changer, but a step in the right direction for the Pistons.
Yeah, he's not great. He's not explosive. But he's a good spot up shooter. Great. He's got a really quick release. Smart decision maker. Very versatile defender. Can guard 1 through 5. He has deep range. He made almost 42% of his 308 3-point attempts in his 2 seasons at Villanova. So he's not afraid of taking the 3. He can knock it down with relative ease. He's going to be a 4 that stretches the floor for Detroit. The exact opposite of what Blake Griffin does for them. I think he will definitely help moving forward.
Yeah.
And just so we know, the Clippers sent the number 19 pick via Brooklyn to the Pistons. The Clippers receive Luke Kennard, and the Nets end up getting Landry Shamet.
Again, we talked about this before. These wild trades. This isn't even like one of the worst ones that could happen. I mean, we've seen trades that have included close to double-digit players and on top of draft picks and 6 teams. It can get really wild in the NBA, and that's why it can get really confusing very fast.
Sorry, I'm just taking a look at what Woj has to say. So Detroit did end up selecting Sadiq Bey with number 19, who they were targeting, made that selection for them. Coming out of Villanova. I watch too much football. Coming out of Villanova, which is obviously a top school for basketball purposes, Sadiq Bey will come in with a lot of basketball knowledge. You can know that he's got a great background on him, and he's just a player that you can count on moving forward, because those guys coming out of Villanova tend to do really well. But we'll see exactly uh exactly how they use him moving forward. What I'm interested to see is that no lottery picks have been taken from Duke, or were taken from Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, or the University of North Carolina. Cole Anthony would have been the closest, but he was not a lottery pick. He was just right outside of the lottery.
That's right.
So interesting to note that four of the very top schools, possibly the top four schools in college basketball, didn't have a single draft selection in the top 14 picks.
I mean, it's crazy. It has to be 2020 because we saw a guy in the NBA get drafted from Alabama before Duke. Like, you would think this is the NFL draft, the way this is going, the schools that are being drafted. I can't believe that, no one from these big schools has been taken yet.
Yeah, well, except again for Cole Anthony, he just
right
went out
right
the
outside
top
the.
14.
I'm talking about for even the lottery picks. You had guys go from very poor basketball schools. So
Yeah. Just to reiterate what I was talking about with Villanueva, for the last three drafts, these are the players that have come out of Villanueva that you can take a look at. Mikhail Bridges for the 76ers, Dante DiVincenzo for the Milwaukee Bucks, Omari Spellman for the Atlanta Hawks, Jalen Brunson for the Dallas Mavericks, Eric Pascal for the Golden State Warriors, and now Sadiq Bey coming out of Villanova in 2020, going to the Brooklyn Nets.
You like to intertwine Villanova and Villanueva quite a bit.
I do. I watch a lot of football.
All those times that you want to crack jokes that I'm the only one that messes up pronouncing names, and you know what? I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it. I'll have to bring this up. I'll have to clip it, and every time you call me out for saying someone's name's wrong.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut, I guess.
I have my nut that'll hold against you.
The continued lack of want and desire for a player like RJ Hampton is compounded every single pick that moves forward. This is where I thought his drop dead moment would come. We have the Miami Heat at number 20, possibly looking to add a point guard to their already championship caliber team. Obviously coming off of a finals appearance where they lost to the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, could RJ Hampton finally come off the board here at number 20?
You would think so. They just was just also added that along in that three team trade, Rodney McGruder will be going to the Pistons from the Clippers, so add him along with that deal. I think that this, going back to RJ Hampton, he should be drafted here. This is a huge steal. This is right up there with Denny Avdia as the biggest steal in the draft so far.
Woj and Shams are both reporting that Miami will be selecting Precious Achiuwa, with the number 28 pick in the NBA draft. They are Yeah, again, another spot where RJ Hampton is not selected.
That's very
They get
interesting.
a big they get a very talented big man, a top 10
Which
pick
is
that was also still on the board.
very
Very
interesting for
interesting.
them too, because you would think that they're going to try to keep their small size because that's what worked well. I mean, they were able to push the floor. I don't think Precious Achua is a guy who can really push the floor in the way they like to. I don't. He's going to be off the bench. It's going to take him a while to get into this onto this team and do well. So
Yeah,
definitely a
yeah,
guy who's going to take some time to develop in this
he's definitely a
organization.
pick and roll guy. He's definitely a rim runner. Um, he's pretty good defensively, but the areas to improve for Precious ended up being that his feel for the game needs to be improved dramatically. I mean, he gets so tunnel visioned with the ball in his hand. He doesn't make great choices. He is very turnover prone. He averaged almost 3 turnovers and 1 assist per game in college. That is terrible. He has very poor shooting touch. He shot 60% from the free throw line, 26% on floaters, 30% on jumpers. Um, Shaky lower body mechanics. He struggled as a defender, average shooter with concerns about his offense. It's just it's tough. I mean, they get a guy who can rebound well. I had him as a top 10 pick. I'm surprised he made it this far, but hit what they're gonna get here is ideal strength and size for a small lineup big man to come in and just dominate the boards. Him alongside Bam Adebayo will be very interesting.
Yeah, and I don't see it happening anytime soon. I think this the team we saw in the bubble for the most part is the team they are going to try to continue to work with, and you want guys like Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero to make another leap forward in the next season. Unfortunately, they don't get a full off season to work with other players around the league and develop, and it's you got these guys who are ready to go. They're ready to be huge stars. I really hope they're able to put it together and get it going, um, because I don't see any moves that Miami's making, um, that's really going to help them. I haven't heard of any trades they're targeting that they're going to acquire somebody that's going to help them. To me, Precious Achua doesn't do much for them right now. Um, their best hope at this point, hope and pray that Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson take that next step and can help you in all those clutch situations like they did in the bubble.
Now, the 76ers are on the clock, obviously, with a brand new head coach in Doc Rivers. They're trying to change the way they play the game of basketball from a um, uh, from a standpoint of they don't want to be as clunky. They want to be able to spread the floor a little more. I know we keep saying his name, but at some point he has to go. Does RJ Hampton go to Doc Rivers, the point guard whisperer, and they can make something of him with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid?
The only way I'm drafting RJ Hampton for the Sixers is if I know Ben Simmons is not going to be on this team come season start. So this would be a very telling sign if RJ Hampton goes here. I'm gonna say this is not where we see RJ Hampton go.
It's very interesting. So it does look like Shams is reporting that Philadelphia will be selecting Tyrese Maxey, the shooting guard from Kentucky. At least it gives them some more shooting threat. It's what they've been lacking. Uh, on this team to make an actual playoff push. Tyrese Maxey was somebody that you had thought of for the Celtics to look at, but nonetheless, Tyrese Maxey now going to Philadelphia at number 21. 6'3" shooting guard. He's a little smaller in stature, 6'6" wingspan. He's going to struggle defensively, but they have Ben Simmons for that. Where he's going to help mostly is his shooting ability, his ability to space the floor, and what they can do offensively moving forward.
Yeah, Tyrese Maxey. I wouldn't say this is a tell sign that Ben Simmons is gone in the immediate future, but I could see that if Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid can't get it together in the first season that Doc Rivers is there, then I think Ben Simmons is gone. You're gonna try to continue to work the process.
The process is long over. It is done. It is dead.
Philly doesn't want to give up on it, so it's still around.
The Philadelphia 76ers have failed their own process.
Philly's just a terrible city that should burn. But
it's a different scenario that we can talk about later.
Hey, you know what? We're fans, right? We have our biases. We have cities that we that are our rivals, and Philly is definitely one of them. But if it doesn't work 1 year with Doc Rivers, I could see Tyrese Maxey taking over in a year or so.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Let us see. I'm so confused as to what is happening moving forward. At number 22, we have the Denver Nuggets selecting via the Houston Rockets pick. Denver, they have some interesting. They have some interesting. I don't want to say depth or size or just players in general, but they have they're in an interesting spot, I guess is the best way to say it. Because
you're going to want role players at this point.
Right. So when I look at the Nuggets, I look at the Jamal Murray's, the Nikola Jokic's of the world. What do we need from them to continue to compete? I don't know if the answer is here in the draft at this moment. I really don't.
I'd be looking at Udoka Azubuike because what I saw in the playoffs last season, Nikola Jokic was being manhandled down in the court against the Lakers. I mean, Anthony Davis was having his way with him. Nikola Jokic is an offensive center. You need somebody who's a big body that can be of defensive help in those situations. And Azubuike being 7 feet tall with a 7'7" wingspan, he is shredded. This man is 270 pounds. I mean, he could definitely help clear some lanes for Jamal. He can help get separation for Nikola Jokic down in the paint. I think that Azubuike, a big body, would be running two centers, 2 7-footers, but it's a style of offense that could definitely work.
Yeah, I mean, you have Gary Harris, Paul Millsap, Michael Porter Jr. They have some good depth. I think they need a little more scoring off the bench as well, on top of a big man. I think they struggled with when Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic couldn't go, finding where that offensive production was going to come from. Michael Porter Jr. is somebody who definitely stepped up and will continue to get better. But right now, I think they need to find somebody who can be a scorer for them. Um, I'm not exactly sure that that player exists for them at this moment in time, but I guess we'll just wait and see. You talk about a Udoka as a bouquet. Uh, I think he would fit well with them. I just can't really imagine seeing Denver putting out two centers with Gary Harris and Jamal Murray out there as well. I think that it's a bit of a stretch to see 2 point guards, two centers, and then um, Michael Porter Jr. At the three spot. He's gonna look around and be like, "Okay, I got two small guys and two towers. What the hell am I supposed to do out here?"
Yeah, it's the NBA I mean, this draft is interesting. These selections, RJ Hampton dropping still. I mean, we're almost out of the first round. There's no way RJ Hampton makes it into the second round. There's just no way. There's 9 spots to go. Celtics have 2 of them. Oklahoma City has 2 of them. Yeah, the Lakers have 1 of them.
Seems like things are slowing down for the draft as well.
Well, it's harder for teams now because there's players there that you wouldn't expect to be there. You had a guy in mind, but now there's other people there that could make more sense. They might not be a need, but how can you pass up on the best available when they're that good?
I mean, who knows? Sheck West could end up on a team at this point.
That would be the ultimate the ultimate troll job, really. I mean, could you imagine? And can you imagine if you are like a legit basketball player, you worked your whole life to get to this point, and then you see a team draft a rapper by the name of Sheck West? That'd be a rough night.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised Denver hasn't made their selection yet. At least nobody has announced that they've made their selection yet.
Yeah. There's a few options they have. Let's see. So there's 20 seconds left for the Nuggets to make their pick.
Here it is. Okay, the Denver Nuggets with the 22nd pick in the 2020 NBA draft have selected Zeke Naji.
Ooh.
Zeke Naji.
So similar to what I was going after with Azubuike, you're going after Zeke Naji. I believe he's 6'10". He has about a 7'1" wingspan. He is a very interesting player. Along the same lines, a very defensive heavy, not really going to give you too much on offense. I think that he could be a great counterpart to Nikola Jokic.
I'm looking for Najee right now, and I don't even see him listed.
So
that's interesting. Najee.
Let's see.
I don't know why he's not even showing up.
So he's listed as a power forward.
Did I just miss him?
So he is 7 feet tall, a little bit taller than I expected.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, very physical guy.
7'1" wingspan. Yeah.
So, yeah, you now have 2 7-footers on the Denver Nuggets.
Okay, so he is a little bit of a redundancy for Nikola Jokic. He's got good shooting potential. He hit 44% of his jump shots outside of 17 feet, 76% of his free throws as a freshman. He runs the floor hard on breaks. He's an active rebounder, raw talent, great size and coordination. They call him a tenacious rebounder, which is good. That's exactly what they struggled with last year, you talked about, Nick. Um, the where he needs to worry about is his perimeter defense, where a player like Anthony Davis is going to torch him if he doesn't fix his footwork and his ability to protect on the outside. Um, he's a mediocre shot blocker for a player of his size, so he's going to have to fix that. And he was a little turnover prone in college, so they're going to have to work on some of these things with him. But overall, I think they got a player that they vastly needed to help take the next step.
Yeah, for sure. He's a guy that is going to be a good player for them right away, and won't be asked to do too much because you already have two all stars on that roster.
Right.
So this is I'm looking at the remaining names, and I just, unless teams are going for, they're sticking to their guns and they're saying we're going to draft the guy who fits us best, there is nobody that comes even close to RJ Hampton. Who is sitting here at number 23?
The New York Knicks.
Oh great. Oh great.
The
Oh,
New York
boy.
Knicks could double down, get Obi Toppin and RJ Hampton. If they were smart, they would have Hampton, they would have RJ Barrett, they would have Obi
The
Toppin
RJs.
and Mitchell Robinson. That would be your four. That is a very dynamic top four. And then you add a veteran too.
Yeah, it's a lot of young talent. You need the right coach in place. They have Tom Thibodeau. I don't know if he can do that. I don't know if I trust him to bring this team, bring those players up to playoff caliber that can compete against Miami and Milwaukee, Toronto. Like I just don't.
Huh.
Another place they could go, I could see, is Leandro Bolmaro, 6'7" shooting guard. I'd probably put him more at small forward, but good ball handler, has a good shot. It looks like he wants to stay and finish out his contract with his team in Argentina before he makes his way over to the NBA. So you're not going to have him right away. He's going to continue to develop overseas. And by the time he comes to the NBA, he should be good to go and start. So another guy that could be good when the team is ready for him. And there's a few teams right now that are up that could use Leandro Bolmaro in a few years. New York Knicks being the ones on the block on the clock
board
right now.
Yep.
And then you have the Boston Celtics waiting in the wings, a team that is at best looking for depth pieces that can help them off the bench. This is a nice piece where you can get the guy and stash him away and say, hey, go finish out your contract. We don't need you right now, but we'll need you in a few years when and he'll come over. You'll be able to save the money on him. I mean, he'll still be under contract. You won't have to pay some of these guys that are eventually going to leave for the Celtics. A lot of them are going to get paid eventually. So he'll be a nice piece when some of the current pieces move on out.
If the Knicks don't select RJ Hampton here, I feel like the pick would have to be Cassius Winston. I think Cassius Winston, coming out of Michigan State, I've watched a lot of Winston film. I think he is underrated coming in here. I think a lot of it has to do with his 6'1" size. He is a little bit on the smaller side, but he has great physical attributes when it comes to ball handling and his ability to be a floor general and command the offense. He is your typical point guard and will be able to do it. But there's definitely a lot of interest here at the point guard, shooting guard position. with that being said, the New York Knicks have made their selection, and we might as well just call you, the fortune teller of old, because the New York Knicks have selected Leandro Bolmaro with the number 23 selection in the 2020 NBA draft.
I am shocked and for multiple things. The Knicks' fortitude to not give in to taking a guy that they don't want to and getting a guy that will pay off over time. This is the Knicks know they finally understand the place they're in. They're not in a situation where they're going to be contending for the next couple of years. They're getting a piece that is going to be perfect for them when they are ready. If this team can put together a few more trades, they can get guys over to the Knicks that can help Leandro Bolmaro. This team could be very legit in the next 2 to 3 years.
It's interesting because they just went through the trade that took place um, for the Knicks, and if I can pull it right back up, yeah, here it is. So the trade happened. The Knicks received the 23rd overall pick from the Utah Jazz, and they got the draft rights to Ante Tomic, who was drafted back in 2008, 12 years ago, who has not made his debut in the NBA after being traded. The Utah Jazz received the 27th overall and the 38th overall from New York. And then on top of that, they take this selection and draft another draft and stash player. It'll be interesting to see if he ends up coming to the NBA. A lot of these draft and stash players don't end up making NBA, debuts, at least for the team that has drafted them. So I don't know if this was a great pick for them. I hope for Knicks fans that they get something out of this, but I don't see this as a big win at all.
I think that Bolmaro, it's he still needs to develop a little bit. He has a lot of tools that would work well in the NBA now, but give him a few more years. This guy can really turn into something. He's young. I believe he's 19 years old, so still very young. A lot to learn, and if he does get better like we expect,
Oh,
this is a legitimate guy
yeah.
for the
Well,
Knicks.
it's not for the Knicks though. Leandro Bolmaro has been traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh, Ife.
Per Adrian Wojnarowski, this isn't official as of yet. These are draft rights being sent. But the New York Knicks, I'm interested to see what they get back in uh, for making this selection for
my
the.
my guess is this has to be a player because Minnesota just traded both of their first round picks away to Oklahoma City for Ricky Rubio and the 17. Who on Minnesota could have gone to the Knicks that's going to help them? Could it be Ricky
Uh,
Rubio?
Lord help his soul. Let us take a look at their roster. So they currently have Cat and D'Angelo Russell, who weren't going to be moved. Evan Turner, James Johnson, Jarrett Culver, Jake Lyman, Juan Hernan Gomez, Malik Beasley, Josh Okogie, Jacob Evans, Omari Spellman. Uh, I, whew.
Send Juan Hernan Gomez back to the Knicks.
I if I'm the Knicks, not for anything. I don't want any of these guys. I'd rather have Bull Morrow and hope that he comes to the NBA.
He'll come. He just said he wants to finish out his contract. And
So they didn't
Windhorst
actually receive a player. Brian Windhorst reports that the New York Knicks sent Bull Morrow to the Minnesota Timberwolves for picks 25 and 33.
Interesting, because he reported earlier that the Minnesota was giving up the 25th and 28th. Yeah, Minnesota is acquiring Oklahoma City's Ricky Rubio. Oh, okay. I see. They acquired the 25th and 28th from Oklahoma City.
Right, and now they
Okay.
send 25 out along
Okay.
with 33
So they turned one
for
of those
Balmoro,
Oklahoma City picks into Leandro
Leandro
Balmaro.
Balmoro.
So they still have the 28th pick. Right now we have this. We have
just two things. I don't mean to cut you off, but we have two things. First and foremost, one of the things that we led off tonight talking about, the Golden State Warriors have said that they fear Klay Thompson has suffered a significant Achilles injury. He has an MRI scheduled for tomorrow morning, but the optimism is extremely low in Golden State that he'll be able to play this season. So our prayers and our thoughts are with Klay Thompson and his family, as he will most likely have to miss a second straight season. Um, eh, I really feel for him. I know he was rehabbing and trying to come back from his torn ACL, and now tearing an Achilles on his opposite leg is just a devastating blow and a setback of the highest proportions here.
interesting from Woj. New Orleans is selecting RJ Hampton for the Nuggets. Not quite following how this is happening. I don't believe New Orleans is on the clock.
They selected him at number 24.
I thought the Celtics were sitting at 24.
Celtics sit at 26.
Oh, okay. All right. So that makes a little bit more sense.
New Orleans takes yet another point guard added onto the roster.
They're selecting RJ Hampton for the Nuggets. So the Nuggets are trading something to New Orleans. We'll wait to see what that is. Interesting. So the Nuggets, they got Najee, and now they get RJ Hampton. They now have. I mean, you have.
A future pick is going to New Orleans from Denver. A future pick. So nothing tonight.
Wow.
Also, just as a bit of fun news, the Miami Heat, who selected Precious Achiuwa at number 20. Precious has 4 siblings. Would you like to hear their names?
Oh boy. Oh, okay. I'm ready.
His 4 siblings' names are God's Gift.
No, I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
God's Will.
Oh boy.
Grace and Peace.
Grace is the best one, and I hope it's a female.
Well, you never know. But nonetheless, those are his four siblings' names. So you have Precious, God's Gift, God's Will, Grace, and Peace.
You think his parents are religious?
I don't think they know what the inside of a church looks like. Yeah. So the New York Knicks entered today with the 27 and 38. They ended with 25 and 33. Not too bad. They moved up 2 spots and moved up 8 spots on both of those picks and gave up just those picks. So not bad at all.
No, definitely not. Very interesting. So now the Knicks are back on the clock at 25. Minnesota is going to select for them.
No, OKC is selecting for them.
OKC, right, because Minnesota acquired the trade tonight. Wow.
This is why we do this, so we can help everyone understand what the hell is going on. Oklahoma City has selected Emmanuel Quickley with the number 25 pick. That is the pick that will now be going to the New York Knicks. Now, to be completely honest with you, I have no idea who this guy is. He is 6'4" with a 6'10" wingspan. He's a sophomore coming out of the University of Kentucky, so he's got to have decent measurables here. He's a knockdown shooter who hit 40% of his threes and 90% of his free throws. That can always be utilized. Lightning quick release off the catch, excellent shooting off screens, potent off the dribble, team player who swings the ball. He's a little undersized, but he has a 6'10 wingspan. He competes on both ends, solid 3-point shooter, rebounds well, automatic free throw shooter. This is where he needs to improve. Poor finisher at the rim, lacks verticality and offhand in a sense of for using touch, lacks playmaking chops. Despite his length, he still lacks pure size and strength. Unproven as a facilitator, inefficient 2-point scorer, size disadvantage guarding bigger wings. So that is who the New York Knicks will be pairing with Obi Toppin, RJ Barrett, and Mitchell Robinson moving forward is Emmanuel Quickly, who ESPN had ranked at 41, being taken at number 25. Let's see where he was everywhere else. CBS 46, ESPN 41, The Ringer 46. So this is quite the stretch where they could have taken him at 33 and still gotten somebody else here.
A guy that I'm interested in for the Celtics is Malachi Flynn. I like this guy. He reminds me. I mean, just looking at him, he looks like a young Mike Bibby. I think that this at 6'1", 6'2", he's small as a point guard, but he is a great facilitator, a guy that could emulate Kemba Walker very well as a guard as an on-ball guard coming off the bench. He could be great in rotation with Kemba Walker. So I think it's always a good idea to have two of the same on-ball guard. That way, no matter who is on the court, the offense is still running the same way, no matter if it's the starter or the bench player.
So I would go the complete opposite direction and take a look at a player like Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels he's a bigger guy. He's 6'10", but his standing reach is 8'11". He has excellent ball handler for the power forward center size. Great out of the pick and roll. He's a good spot up shooter with smooth mechanics. He can hit threes at the five position. He's got great positional size. He's approaching 7 feet. He's still growing. He can make great shots, and he's a plus defender. I think with him still on the board, the Celtics have to take a look at possibly adding him now that they're working on their depth, especially in the front court.
For sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're looking for in a player, but height would definitely be there. I would still like the Celtics to at 30 to go after a guy like Azubuike, who can offer that same height and defensive prowess. So I'd rather take a shot on somebody else that's available. I don't think.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Something is not right here.
With
it says, right? Where did RJ Hampton go?
To the Nuggets.
And who made the selection?
Thunder. And Minnesota.
Why did the Milwaukee Bucks just post with the 24th pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select RJ Hampton?
Maybe that a pick originated from Milwaukee.
Let's see. If I take a look, 24, it came from Indiana.
Wow. So this pick.
Well, I don't exactly understand what's happening here. RJ Hampton probably doesn't even know what's going on here.
He's playing for half the league now.
I guess so. Boston has selected Peyton Pritchard at number 26.
I'll be honest, I don't know.
Let me find out where the hell he's at. I don't even know what position. Give me a second.
He is from Oregon, point guard, 6'2". Good shooting range, tough. He's
high effort, good 3-point shooter, quality passer, uses ball handling to create good looks inside the arc. Not bad. smart decision maker, knockdown shooter. That's what they need coming off the bench.
Yeah, I mean,
that versatility.
He also looks like he's an off-ball guard too. So Marcus Smart will remain, as it stands, will remain the on-ball guard for the second team, while Kemba is the on-ball guard for the first team.
Yeah, that's interesting because, again, that's why they picked Carson Edwards and Tremont Waters last year, is for that exact reason. I'm a little surprised
Maybe
they
that's
didn't
where
go after
that's where they want their depth.
4 shooting guards. Or sorry,
the Celtics are most likely taking flyers on players they think have potential to be great, because they don't need anybody right now, especially like at this.
They don't need anybody in this draft.
I
came into the draft saying that the Boston Celtics, if they make all 3 of their first round picks, have lost this draft. This was not. I wanted all 3 of these picks gone, just like I wanted the picks last year gone. And Danny Ainge just seems to have not been able to make that happen.
Yeah, it's not the best draft for Danny Ainge. He's definitely had better, but I think they were hoping that RJ.
I know. Well, Aaron Naismith is the best shooter in this draft, by far and away the best shooter. So I'll give him Aaron Naismith.
Naismith
but Peyton Pritchard is a question mark in my eyes.
Yeah, I think they're looking for developmental talent in the draft right now. I don't think they're looking for anybody that's going to come and help them right now. They're not going to find that in the draft, so they'll use free agency.
Yeah. I'm a little annoyed, but
Jazz are on the clock.
another pick. They have another pick at 30, so
they do.
We'll see what happens at that point.
And here goes my guy. The Utah Jazz have selected Udoka Azubuike. Wow. So you got him and Rudy Gobert. 2 7-footers. Azubuike has a 7'8" wingspan, has a standing reach of 9 feet 4 inches, so 6 or 8 inches away from the rim. He just has to stand on his tippy toes.
Him and Taco Fall, let's get it together.
Yeah. So, a huge defensive piece. They know exactly what it's going to take to compete in the West. Get very physical. This will help Rudy Gobert get open. He'll be able to make those mid-range shots, get down to the basket. Lanes will be free for him, and Spider, obviously. Yeah, I really like this pick.
Did you just say Spider?
Spider.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, I'm sad to see him go because I really, really like Azubuike, but I can't wait to see what this guy does in the NBA. The Utah Jazz have agreed to trade center Tony Bradley in the 38th pick to the Pistons for future considerations. Very fitting upon the draft choice of Udoka Azubuike. Yeah, this clears the way for him on the roster.
He'll be their number 2 center, the rotational piece that'll give Rudy Gobert time to rest.
For sure.
So our best available still remain is Jaden McDaniels, Tyler Bay, Trey Jones, Robert Woodard II, and Daniel Oturu. This is a draft that has really tested our ability to read and pronounce names. I will tell you that much in the slightest.
Yeah, as we're closing,
the Pistons are also sending cash to the Jazz as well, for Tony Bradley in the 38th pick.
Okay. So as we're closing in here, 3 more picks in the first round, and then we're gonna get our butts out of here.
We need to go to sleep.
Yeah, we need some rest. We do have day jobs.
Unfortunately.
You said it. Yeah. I don't know exactly who people what you're really targeting. No one really stands out here. You're truly taking flyers at this point. Lakers on the clock right now. They're probably
Who?
the Lakers.
Who are those? I don't know.
the reigning champs.
Hmm.
Uh,
I feel like the Lakers should change their name.
to Kobe's team.
No, because they were the Lakers when they were near the Great Lakes in Minneapolis. But now they're no longer there. They're in Los Angeles. The Lakers no longer make any sense.
So call them like I don't even know. I don't even
The torn apart cities.
Yeah. Yeah. Los Angeles, interesting. As people from the East Coast, I question California and everything that goes on there and support the decision of the hundreds of thousands that have decided California is not the place to be. So,
No, I don't support them because they're going to go to Texas and they're going to try to change Texas into something that it's not, and then they're going to get pissed that Texas isn't what it was quote unquote cracked up to be. But that's because they leave where they are and then they change the place they went to because it's not the same.
well, actually, I think I've heard that Colorado is becoming a state that's a big attraction to a lot of people.
Yeah,
So,
let them go.
Colorado, great state. I mean, it's very peaceful there. Yeah,
I feel like
it's cold,
the king of Egypt. Let my people go.
He's just extreme. I mean, Colorado is extremely cold. I mean, it snows there in May. It snows there in September. You've got a 3 month summer, and it gets up to about 54 degrees on a bad day. So I think that a lot of people that are going from California to Colorado, they're not going to be long for that place because you can either adapt quickly or get eaten alive by the weather. Knicks closing in on 2 minutes. Um, not really
Lakers?
sure. The Lakers.
Not Knicks.
No, the Lakers.
Uh, the Lakers aren't actually making their selection. It's Oklahoma City's. Just so we're clear.
So Oklahoma City.
Per Shams, Oklahoma City is selecting power forward Jaden McDaniels, who I just talked about for the Celtics. Now at number 28 goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. He is a very versatile big man. He is somebody that will definitely help them right now. I think this is a big win for Oklahoma City. He is a building block piece for them, and they get him at 28, which is kind of incredible.
Yeah. Good piece for them. A team that is he'll get a lot of time in the NBA as a starter to develop. Like he's going to be thrown into the mix right away.
Christmas O'Malley.
What do we have now?
Minnesota acquires Jaden McDaniels via number 28.
Another team that's all in on this draft class. Timberwolves.
Minnesota adding Jaden McDaniels to Cat is very interesting because he will definitely play the 4 position. That's what he is. He's a power forward that can stretch the floor, and Cat won't have to be relied upon to be the pick and roll guy anymore. They can utilize Jaden McDaniels in the pick and roll game because now you actually have to guard him on the 3-point line, where teams could sit off of Cat because he couldn't make the deep range shots.
So we have 2 picks left. Yeah, this is. We've got
so this is coming. Excuse me. The New York Knicks obviously have inside information on Emmanuel Quickley. Their assistant coach, Kenny Payne, was an assistant at Kentucky last season, where Quickly played. Leon Rose, who's the general manager, was John Calipari's agent, and Quickly projects as a guard who can shoot and has high character. This all led to the Knicks being all in on and drafting Emmanuel Quickly. Again, for me, that is somebody they could have selected at number 33 and nobody would have batted an eye. I don't imagine he would have gone in the first round otherwise.
A guy I would like here for the Celtics, Nico Mannion.
Aren't we missing someone? The 29?
I know. I mean, we got 2 picks. There's, we'll see what happens, but there's only 2 more selections in the first round. I would, if I'm a betting man, and I am more than I like to admit, I would say that Nico Mannion is one of the guys that's going to be drafted in the first round.
It's very possible. We have the Toronto Raptors. Obviously, they're on the cusp of losing Fred VanVleet. Yep. So they could possibly go with a Nico Mannion or even a Trey Jones type of person. Or if they're going to start looking at the future, they might want to draft the replacement for Kyle Lowry and get a player like Cassius Winston, who he reminds me a lot of Cassius Winston reminds me a lot of Kyle Lowry. If he improves his knockdown on off the dribble shooting game, then that's exactly who he could become. But right now, he needs to work on his ability to knock down the 3-pointer at a consistent on a consistent basis.
Yeah, another guy the Celtics might take a look at is Daniel Oturu. He's a center. He's a small center at 6'9", but his numbers in college were great. Averaged 20.1 points, 11.3 rebounds, and 2.7 blocks a game. I mean, those are great numbers. That is productivity at its finest for a big man in college. A guy that could definitely help this team out in the
Yeah, I still think Tyler Bay is definitely somebody to watch as well. He is the number 1 best available on the board right now. I would be interested to see that either Toronto or Boston goes after him just because he's the best player on the board. I mean, you're not necessarily drafting for need at this point. You're drafting best available.
So the Timberwolves have drafted tonight Anthony Edwards, Leandro Balmara, and Jaden McDaniels.
On top of acquiring Ricky Rubio.
Wow. Timberwolves becoming semi-relevant.
Yeah, they're still in a very deep and talented Western Conference, so it'll take a lot for them. This is going to have to take place over the next few years.
Yeah, you're going to want to see Anthony Edwards, kind of like Jason Tatum, develop and become that guy. So you have a guy like Cat there already, and Russell. It's there's a lot of potential here.
Mm-hmm.
Teams seem to be wanting to take their time now that they can't just take a guy who has fallen into their laps. But
let's see. Very interesting draft. Definitely not as I expected, but then again, when is a draft ever, on par with what anybody expects?
True. Very true. I'm very shocked. I expected a lot of trades tonight.
Yeah, we only saw a few, and all of them coming from Minnesota.
Really?
just as a side note, since we talk all sports and it doesn't have to be just basketball tonight, but Jennifer Maya has said that she is superior in all areas versus Valentina Shevchenko.
Valentina Shevchenko is not a woman I am wanting to anger.
That is not somebody you piss off.
She's scared. I mean, have you seen her celebrations afterward? She practices ballet in her spare time, and that's how she celebrates, is doing ballet around the ring in the blood of her opponent. It's so sadistic but great. She is not someone I'm giving any more fuel.
Well, there it is. But also, just to get back to what we're doing here, with the 29th pick in the 2020 NBA draft, the Toronto Raptors have selected Malachi Flynn.
Yeah. This is a guy I think that could develop into another Fred VanVleet. He has that potential. He has the same size. They're both 6'1", so they're used to the size. They know how to develop that type of player. I really, really like this selection. I think that Malachi Flynn went to a good team.
Right, and that's why I thought Cassius Winston would actually go here, is because I thought he was the more polished player. He went to the bigger school, faced tougher competition, went deeper into the March Madness back when we actually had March Madness.
Feels like forever ago.
You believe that come March, if we don't have it again, it'll be 2 full years that we haven't seen March Madness?
Wow. Yeah.
Incredible.
So 1 pick remaining. Celtics have the last pick in the first round. That's where we will leave you tonight. Yeah, I like Oturu. I like Nico Mannion. It'll be interesting to see what they do. They are moving the 30th pick according to Woj. So, let's see what the Boston Celtics are acquiring and who is acquiring the 30th pick.
30th pick for James Harden. Signed, sealed, delivered.
Straight up.
I'm yours. It'll be interesting to say the least. How this turns out.
Very curious to see what his next tweet is.
Excuse me. Tired. As soon as we say it, just end the stream. It's over. Done. Bye. Something select. Okay, bye. It's true. If they completely made up a draft pick at this point and had actors celebrating in a home around a guy, 99% of the viewers wouldn't even know.
What if you made a trade with a team? You were like, I'll trade you this pick, but when I make the selection, I get to choose who you get, and then I just draft Sheck West. I can see Sheck West pulling up on the first day, just trying to play with these guys, just gets swatted left and right.
I mean, if you have the 60th pick, fuck it, right? What are we doing?
Number 30 is headed to Memphis. So what did Memphis give up to Boston? Woj really wants to drag this out and make us really think about who is going here. Who's going here at 30 and what Memphis is giving up.
If it's not Ja Morant, I don't want it.
If it's not Ja Morant.
No, but Jonas Valanciunas is there. What?
So the Grizzlies are targeting Desmond Bane.
Yes.
So that is going to round out the first round.
We don't know if they're going to take him just yet. I don't even know where he's at on my board.
I mean, Desmond Bain, shooting guard, 6'6", spot shooting, range, court
There he
vision,
is.
defensive toughness. I mean, yeah, he's got a lot of tools, just not great in any of them. So a guy who's going to develop. Yeah, they're taking the flyer on Desmond Bain here at 30. Let's see what they gave up to acquire. So still waiting on the report.
Ja Morant. Ja Morant.
I mean, in reality, who could possibly be going here? Who could head?
Jonas Valanciunas. No,
Realist.
seriously. Because he's older. They want to get younger. So I can imagine that could have been a trade. Maybe Justice Winslow. I don't really know. I can't imagine that it was for a player, in all honesty. I think it has to have been future assets.
It's possible. There really is nobody here for the Celtics if they made a move to get a future first round pick. It would probably have more of a value in the future than it does now.
Correct. Oh, Desmond Bain.
So, still waiting to hear. This is surprising. It's taking this long. So let's see. We have Memphis. Let's take a look. Anybody else on this roster? Grayson Allen. See if they have anybody that. Yeah, I mean nobody really worth a 30th pick. For all we know, this could end up being cash considerations.
It's very possible. It's possible that the deal isn't even finalized. That could still be. It could be a three team deal. Um,
I wonder how players feel when they're drafted by Toronto, now that they have to move to a different country. Wonder if that deters them.
it's interesting because what I always think about is like taxes, right? Because these guys are making good money, and in Canada, they're taxed after a certain age. They hit a specific marker. So before that age, I think you're fine in Toronto. I think it's like your late 20s or early 30s that you have to hit like a 50% tax mark. With that, I if do you pay taxes in the U.S. because most of your games are paid in the U.S.
Uh,
There's a lot of nuances to this that we're not understanding just yet. Um, but as the second round has started, I think that is going to be the end for us.
yeah.
We will let's see. We will end tonight with all of this, but let's see. We will be remote next week, right?
Actually,
For
no. We will not be around next week. Um, we will be taking next week off. It is the holiday. Everybody enjoy your time with your family, friends, all your close relatives, and everybody that's close to you. It's a very great holiday to get together, enjoy some great food, and enjoy the company around you. So have a great week, and we'll see you the week after.
Stay safe, stay healthy, find somebody you love, tell them you love them,